Chapter 459. After taking a sip of wine, Bai Ditian shook his head and said, "Don't worry. As long as the dean of the Jilu Academy hears my name, he will not do anything out of line." "Yes." The two of them replied respectfully. "Zuo Wuzhou." Bai Ditian said lightly. "Yes. I don't care what method you use. Keep me updated on Yan Chuan's group, especially the white tiger on his shoulder." Bai Ditian said in a low voice. "White tiger? Isn't that a cat?" Zuo Qianxiu asked in shock. Bai Ditian's eyes turned cold. He released a vicious aura. Plop. Zuo Qianxiu immediately knelt down. "Remember, you have no right to be disrespectful to it." Bai Ditian said coldly. "Yes." Zuo Qianxiu said as he trembled. Jilu City. Inside a large hall. Meng Rongrong had changed into a white dress. "Bastard, Yan Chuan." Meng Rongrong gritted her teeth. "Young mistress." A voice came from outside the hall. "Come in." Meng Rongrong shouted. Soon, a few Confucian scholars walked in. The one leading them was Changqing, who had been sent to Yanjin. "Have you found out?" Meng Rongrong asked. "Young mistress, which one do you want to hear?" Changqing asked. Let's talk about Bai Ditian first." Meng Rongrong said with a frown. "Yes, Bai Ditian. According to our records, he should be the tiger king of the tiger species recently. He is a white tiger. After he was born, he kept a low profile and did not get along with others. However, a month ago, he kept breaking through." Changqing explained. "Broke through? What do you mean?" "A month ago, he was still in the essence state." Changqing said in disbelief. "What? Essence state? Are you sure?" Meng Rongrong asked in shock. "No, I also hope that it's a mistake. But my Jilu Academy has records of the few demonic beast races that are vassal to us. This Bai Ditian is just that strange. Essence state, Qi state, immortal state, virtual state. 1 month?" Meng Rongrong was surprised. "Oh right, I've also found out about Yan Chuan. The Eastern Orthodox faction has invited him to the Eastern Palace Hall as an honored guest." Changqing immediately said. "Eastern Palace Hall? Sure enough, like people meet like people." Meng Rongrong's eyes revealed a trace of lovable hatred. "Ha ha ha, who made my daughter angry?" A hearty laugh came from outside the hall. An old man in a white robe stepped in. The old man had white hair and a white beard, and he looked very amiable. "Greetings, Hall Master." The group of Confucian scholars respectfully said. Not bad. You guys can leave first." The old man chuckled. "Yes." The Confucian scholars respectfully left. "Father!" Meng Rongrong shouted. "What? I just heard someone say that you were bullied. Who is so bold?" The old man asked. "Father, listen to their nonsense. How could it be?" Meng Rongrong immediately shook her head. "That Yan Chuan." The old man still did not give up. "Father, don't worry about my matters. It's really nothing. Don't listen to others' nonsense." Meng Rongrong immediately pulled the old man's arm and said. Okay, I don't care." The old man chuckled. "Oh right, father, the new king of the tiger clan is very strange. In 1 month, he stepped into the virtual realm from the essence state. How did he do it?" Meng Rongrong frowned. Zuo Wuzhou stepped down. "Who is the new king?" The old man was puzzled. "His name is Bai Ditian. Zuo Qianxiu and Zuo Wuzhou are extremely respectful to him." Meng Rongrong thought and said. "Bai Ditian? Bai Ditian? This name sounds a little familiar. Where have I seen it before?" The old man was puzzled. "Ah, Father, you've heard of it. Didn't they say that you were in seclusion? Meng Rongrong asked curiously. Wait. The old man suddenly became serious. With a flip of his hand, the old man took out a book. History of the Tiger Clan. Meng Rongrong looked at the title of the book curiously. This is a record of the Tiger Clan's glorious history, the old man said solemnly. Then, he quickly flipped through the book. As he flipped through the book, the old man's hand suddenly stopped. Bai Ditian. Meng Rongrong looked at a page of the book in shock. The entire page recorded a Tiger Clan expert, Bai Ditian. It's him. He didn't ascend. Did he reincarnate and cultivate again? The old man looked at the name in shock. Ah, is this the same person? Meng Rongrong said in shock. It must be him. In 1 month, he reached the virtual realm from the essence state. That is the power left behind in his previous life. He inherited it. Bai Ditian, he's back. The old man frowned. Is it really that fierce person? Meng Rongrong said in disbelief. Don't investigate him in the future. The feud between the Tiger Clan and the Julu Academy ends here. The old man said in a low voice. Oh, okay. Meng Rongrong nodded. Julu City. On a huge floating island, there was a large palace called the Eastern Palace. Yan Chuan stood at the edge of the floating island and looked at the Sea of Providence in the sky. He looked at the countless cultivators below and felt a sense of familiarity. Young master, this Eastern Palace is one of the top 10 floating islands in Julu City. I didn't expect it to be the private property of the Eastern Orthodox faction. Qing Long sighed. Is that so? Is there anyone else in the Julu Academy with the surname Eastern? Yan Chuan asked. I'm not sure. This surname is very rare. I only know that he is from the Eastern Orthodox faction. Qing Long shook his head. Just as Yan Chuan and Qing Long were talking, a white figure flew over from afar. Brother Yan, this is bad. This is bad. Your name has spread throughout the city. Eastern Orthodox faction said anxiously. Oh. Isn't it because you molested little Miss Meng? That's the daughter of the Dean, a goddess in the hearts of countless cultivators. You actually molested her in front of nearly 10,000 cultivators. TSK, with such boldness, it's hard for you not to become famous. Dongfang Zhenpai scolded. Yan Chuan. Those busybodies came back and spread the news. Now, all of Great Deer City is talking about you. Some storytellers even split your story into 8 parts and take turns telling it every morning, noon, and night at the tea house. There are even people who have formed a rape alliance, saying that they will rape you for little Meng. Dongfang Zhenpai gloated. Is that so? Yan Chuan asked curiously. That's right. I was thinking that if you wanted to compete with Sima Yuntian for the God investiture strategy, you would have to catch up to him in terms of influence. But now, your reputation has already surpassed his. Dongfang Zhenpai laughed. Yan Chuan. Meow. What happened that day was split into 8 parts. Meow exclaimed. Of course, it's not just 8 parts. There are many versions. Anyway, Brother Yan, you're famous. In Julu City, you're completely famous. Dongfang Zhenpai said enviously. Chapter 460. Julu City. In a courtyard, 7 to 8 green-robed Confucian scholars surrounded a white-robed man. The man held a fan in his hand, his eyes filled with arrogance. Brother Chen Ping, to be so angry for a beauty, I admire you. A green-robed Confucian scholar praised. Brother Chen Ping is the last disciple of the virtuous sage Sima Yuntian, his name shakes the world. With a command, hundreds of Confucian cultivators will respond. Everyone praised the white-robed man. The white-robed man, Chen Ping, smiled with satisfaction. Then, he said solemnly, Meng Rongrong is a goddess. She is sacred and inviolable. Who would have thought that a mediocre outsider would dare to molest her in front of nearly 10,000 practitioners? This is intolerable. Everyone, for this alliance, we must make that shameless person pay the price. Good. We will listen to Brother Chen Ping. The Confucian scholars in the courtyard nodded, some were filled with righteous indignation, some were trying to curry favor with Chen Ping. Sir, sir. A servant ran into the courtyard in a panic. What's wrong? Chen Ping asked curiously. That Yan Chuan is out. The servant said immediately. Is that so? Finally, he's not a coward anymore. Let's go, everyone follow me, let's teach this shameless person a lesson. Chen Ping shouted. Okay. Let's teach him a lesson. Under Chen Ping's lead, a group of people stepped out of the courtyard. With the servant leading the way, more and more Confucian scholars gathered, majestically heading towards Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan, Qing Long, Miao and Dongfang Zhengpai flew quickly in the city. Young master, someone is following us. And it's not just one group. Qing Long frowned. This is normal. Yan Chuan is now a famous person in Julu City, who would dare to molest the young miss of Julu Academy? Who would dare to molest the young miss in front of 10,000 cultivators? Dongfang Zhenpai laughed. I said, I didn't molest you. Yan Chuan was somewhat speechless. Understood, understood. Dongfang Zhenpai revealed a wretched smile. Miao. Surnamed Dong, didn't you say that you would bring us to sign up? Why did you come to the back? Miao shouted. My surname is not Dong. Dongfang Zhenpai shouted. The registration point is behind. Dongfang Zhenpai said. Oh, who is in charge of this year's strategy of God's investiture? Yan Chuan asked. Dean of the left courtyard, Yu. Dongfang Zhenpai explained. Left courtyard? Yu. Julu Academy is split into the left and left courtyards. Other than the virtuous paragons who are unwilling to be disturbed by worldly affairs, the person with the highest position in the Julu Academy is the courtyard Dean Meng Ziqiu, followed by the Dean of the left courtyard Yu and the right courtyard Sima Yuntian. It's a pity that Sima Yuntian suddenly gave up his position as the Dean of the right courtyard and roamed the world to educate people. It's said that he even went to the other 3 academies to participate in the literary battles. Dongfang Zhenpai explained. Literary battles? Yan Chuan's eyes flashed with a trace of seriousness. Alright, we're here. Flying is not allowed here, even the courtyard dean has to walk on the ground. Dongfang Zhenpai said. Everyone landed on the clouds. After circling around Julu mountain range, the group arrived at a huge depression. It was a huge plaza with many palaces surrounding it. However, within the depression, there were close to 100 rays of white light shooting into the sky. Chapter 461. Before we register, we have to enter and pay our respects. Dongfang Zhenpai said solemnly. Yan Chuan nodded. The group walked towards the cave. There were also many Confucian cultivators entering and exiting. All of them had solemn expressions. As soon as they entered, they saw the source of the white light. There were a total of 100 white jade statues, emitting boundless righteous energy. The 100 white jade statues were all over 100 feet tall. It was a majestic sight. These 100 statues are all of the sages of the Julu Academy. They all ascended to the immortal realm and left behind a strand of their primordial spirits to be nurtured in these statues. They will guide future generations of Confucian cultivators and enlighten the world. They will nurture their righteous energy. Dongfang Zhenpai explained. This is the Julu Academy, the 100 sages' righteous altar. Qing Long's expression changed. That's right. This is the place where the righteous energy of the Julu Academy is the strongest. Dongfang Zhenpai said proudly. However, Yan Chuan wasn't paying attention to these 100 statues. Instead, he was looking at a huge green jade statue surrounded by the 100 sages. Although the green jade statue didn't emit any righteous energy, it was twice as tall as the 100 sages. The lower half of the green jade statue was the tail of a snake, while the upper half was that of a woman. The woman's hands were clasped together, and her eyes were filled with compassion. Goddess Jichen. Yan Chuan looked at the green jade statue in surprise. Yan Chuan clasped his hands together and bowed respectfully. Dongfang Zhenpai looked at Yan Chuan in surprise, but he also bowed respectfully to the woman with the snake's body. Meow. Why do I feel like crying when I see this statue? Meow. Meow's expression suddenly became strange. Meow, are you alright? Yan Chuan looked at Meow curiously. Meow, I don't know why either. When I see her, I feel like crying. I don't know why either. Meow shook her head, revealing a confused expression. Crying? Dongfang Zhenpai asked curiously. Is this Goddess Jichen? Yan Chuan asked Dongfang Zhenpai. Finally, Yan Chuan saw a figure that was similar to his previous life. Although they were all statues, this already showed the connection between this world and his previous life. Goddess Jichen. What's Goddess Jichen? Qing Long was puzzled. Dongfang Zhenpai looked at the statue and shook his head, I'm not sure either. But Goddess Jichen has statues in the 4 great academies and the archaic Arcanum sect for future generations to worship. Legend has it that Goddess Jichen is the ancestor of all living things. She is the one who created all living things. Ah! Goddess Jichen created all living beings in the world. Qing Long said in astonishment. Alright, don't be rude to Goddess Jichen. Let's go out. Yan Chuan shook his head. Even in his previous life, when Yan Chuan grew up, Goddess Jichen was the ancestor of everyone. No one dared to blaspheme it. After worshipping the goddess, we can leave now. Dongfang Zhenpai nodded. Qing Long was still at a loss. Goddess Jichen. Never heard of her before. The group walked out of the 100 Saints' Righteousness altar and walked towards the plaza, heading straight for one of the palaces. God's Ceiling Palace. Opposite the God's Ceiling Palace was a place called the Heavenly Palace. That place was filled with people, entering and exiting. However, the God's Ceiling Palace was extremely cold and cheerless. When the 3 of them walked into the God's Ceiling Palace, they saw a huge signboard with the words Sima Yuntian written on it. Below the signboard sat 8 bored Confucian scholars. They were clutching their books and lying on the table, asleep. How dare you slack off in the God's Ceiling Palace? Dongfang Zhenpai shouted. Yes. The 8 Confucian scholars suddenly quivered. Dongfang scoundrel. It's you. One of the Confucian scholars shouted. Chapter 462. Dongfang bitch, you dare to scare me. Dongfang bitch, you still dare to come. The 8 scholars called out 8 different names, but none of them called out Dongfang Zhenpai's original name. Dongfang Zhenpai didn't feel ashamed and instead laughed, Senior brothers, you've been busy recently. Busy my ass, we're not allowed to cultivate, we're like idiots every day. A scholar said helplessly. Oh, I'm here to find some fun for you. Look, someone signed up for the God Bestowment strategy. Dongfang Zhenpai laughed. What? Sign up? Didn't Sima Yuntian sign up? The scholar frowned. It's not Sima Yuntian, it's my friend, Yan Chuan. Dongfang Zhenpai pointed at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan. The second time he called out Yan Chuan, his voice was 8 pitches higher. What? You're Yan Chuan. Yan Tao's son. The Yan Chuan who molested little Meng. The group of Confucian scholars immediately became interested. They stroked their beards, their eyes shining as they sized up Yan Chuan. Meow, Why is he the same as that wretched fatty? Miao didn't understand. Wretched fatty. Dongfang Zhenpai's face froze. The 8 scholars' faces also froze. They looked at Dongfang Zhenpai with disgust. They coughed and adjusted their attitudes. You're Yan Chuan. You want to sign up for the God bestowment strategy? A scholar asked. Yes. Yan Chuan nodded. You should know that there are conditions to compete for the God bestowment strategy. The scholar said calmly. Conditions? Yan Chuan looked at the scholar and then at Dongfang Zhenpai. Dongfang Zhenpai didn't say anything. That's right. First, you have to make a name for yourself in Jilu City. That's the most basic requirement. A person without influence doesn't have the qualifications to establish an academy or educate all living beings. The Confucian scholar said indifferently. I say, old Yan, isn't Yan Chuan famous in Jilu City? Go out and ask around. From a 1,000-year-old woman to an 8-year-old girl, who doesn't know Yan Chuan? Dongfang Zheng immediately defended Yan Chuan. But why did it sound so awkward when she heard his explanation? Huh? Old Yan was slightly stunned. Besides, if people like you, who live in the lifeless zombie palace, have heard of Yan Chuan, how could the outsiders not have heard of him? How many people in Jilu City don't know Yan Chuan? Isn't he famous enough to shake the entire city? Dongfang Zhenpai scolded. Alright, for the sake of you, Dongfang scoundrel, I'll do it for him. Old Yan nodded. Hang it up. Old Yan said to the Confucian cultivators behind him. Everyone nodded. Quickly, they took out a huge sign. 2 Confucian cultivators quickly picked up the brushes on the table. With a stroke, the 2 words, Yan Chuan, appeared on the sign. Hang it up. Old Yan shouted. The Confucian cultivators nodded and quickly hung the sign on the other side of the hall, beside Sima Yuntian. Just as Yan Chuan was feeling satisfied, a commotion came from outside the hall. Mr. Yan Chuan has entered the God's Sealing Hall. A voice shouted. What? He went in. That's good, follow me in. An arrogant voice came from outside the hall. Everyone turned their heads. Chen Ping. Dongfang Zhenpai raised his eyebrows. The leader was a white-clothed man. He held a folding fan and walked into the hall with an arrogant face. Chen Ping, Sima Yuntian's last disciple, the last of the 72 Confucian scholars. Dongfang Zhenpai explained to Yan Chuan softly. Chapter 463. Jilu City, God Sealing Temple Square. There were many palaces in the square, and the one with the most people was the Sky Hall. The Sky Hall was the place to sign up for the Tian-Su competition. Many sects signed up. The God Sealing Temple opposite was usually very quiet. But today, there were hundreds of Confucian scholars outside the God Sealing Temple. They all looked righteous, as if they were here to kill someone. Look, what's going on at the God Sealing Temple? There are still people in the zombie temple. It's usually deserted. Why are there so many people today? I saw that the leader is Chen Ping, Sima Yuntian's disciple. What are they doing? Causing trouble. Let's go and see. Wherever there were many people, there would be no lack of people gossiping. In the blink of an eye, the God Sealing Temple was surrounded by 3 layers of people. And as the number of people increased, the influence was also increasing. More and more people gathered, making the surrounding cultivators more and more curious. Inside the God Sealing Temple, Chen Ping led the group of Confucians into the main hall. Chen Ping, Sima Yuntian's last disciple, the last of the 72 Confucian scholars. Dongfang Zhenpai whispered to Yan Chuan. Dongfang Zhenpai explained in a low voice. Chen Ping, who had a look of arrogance on his face, suddenly saw a huge signboard. Next to Sima Yuntian, there was a similar sign. Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan. Sign up. Chen Ping squinted his eyes. Sign up. Yan Chuan signed up. Yan Chuan wants to compete for the God Sealing strategy. Yan Chuan wants to compete with Sima Yuntian for the God Sealing strategy. The Confucian cultivators were all shocked. They were all shocked by the scene in front of them. Old Yan, what's going on? How can this kind of person sign up? Chen Ping immediately shouted at the Confucian cultivator who was in charge of the registration. Yeah, this kind of person is immoral. Great Confucian Yan, how can you sign him up? How did you check? The Confucian cultivators in Yan Chuan's alliance all looked at Old Yan. Old Yan asked indifferently, what's wrong? Do we have to report to you when we check? Chen Ping raised an eyebrow at Old Yan's words. Old Yan, I don't understand. That's why I'm asking you for guidance. Chen Ping said in a deep voice. Because of your promotion, Yan Chuan's name has already spread throughout Jiulu City. If he meets the rules, he can sign up any time. Old Yan said calmly. Ah. The scholarly cultivators were all at a loss. Chen Ping was also depressed. He stopped pestering Old Yan and looked at Yan Chuan instead. A country bumpkin wants to compete with my teacher for the God investiture strategy? Keep dreaming. Chen Ping looked coldly at Yan Chuan. You are Sima Yuntian's disciple. Could it be that Sima Yuntian knows that he will lose, so he sent his disciple here to cause trouble? Yan Chuan smiled. Bah, do you really think you're some big shot? You're not even fit to carry my teacher's shoes. I'm here on behalf of the thousands of Confucian cultivators in Jiulu City to teach you a lesson. Chen Pingchen shouted. That's right, a despicable person. The scholarly cultivators all shouted. Old Yan and the other Confucian cultivators who had signed up immediately became interested. The God Investiture Hall was nicknamed the Zombie Hall because it was too quiet. It was so quiet that the Confucian cultivators were bored to the point of sleeping. Now, something had finally happened. The 8 Confucian cultivators smiled and sat down. No one stopped them and allowed the two sides to curse each other. This kind of situation was rare. Xing. Yan Chuan pulled out the Jade Emperor sword. Chapter 464. The Confucian cultivators were shocked and stopped talking. The name of the sword is Jade Emperor. It has killed 7,132 people and has never been defeated. Since you are interested, let's start. Who shall we start? Yan Chuan asked. The hall was dead silent. Everyone was shouting, but only a few of them were willing to fight to the death. Even Chen Ping's eyelids were twitching. Although Chen Ping was an immortal state warrior, he could not see through Yan Chuan's cultivation level. Moreover, Yan Chuan was Yan Tao's son. Would he turn into a blood demon? Gentlemen use their words, not their fists. We are here to reason. Chen Ping shouted. Meow, so you are not here to fight, but to spit. Meow said with disdain. Ha ha ha. Old Yan laughed. Screech. Yan Chuan pulled out the Jade Emperor sword and put it into the sheath on his back. He looked at Chen Ping with disdain. Seeing Yan Chuan put away the Jade Emperor sword, the Confucian cultivators were excited again. Yan Chuan, you insulted Meng Rongrong. You are despicable. Yan Chuan, you have to apologize to Meng Rongrong. We can't let this despicable man go. He has to kneel down and repent. Yes, kneel down and repent. Kneel down and repent. The Confucian cultivators were agitated. Chen Ping took advantage of the situation and shouted, Yan Chuan, you have committed a heinous crime by insulting Meng Rongrong. Now the whole city knows about it. How dare you show your face? Come with me to Meng Rongrong's residence and kneel down and repent. Then get out of Jiulu City. Everyone followed Chen Ping's words. Meow, what a bunch of lunatics. Meow Meow whispered. Yan Chuan smiled and said, insulting Meng Rongrong? Who said that? The Confucian cultivators were slightly taken aback. Then, they stared at Yan Chuan with disdain. You dare to do it, but you don't dare to admit it. Right now, the entire city is saying that you insulted Meng Rongrong. Last time at the Tiger Tribe's encampment, did you tear Meng Rongrong's clothes and do something improper? Chen Ping shouted. Ha ha ha, what a joke. You saw it? Yan Chuan said disdainfully. At that time, nearly 10,000 pairs of eyes were watching, and you still wanted to act shamelessly? What right does an immoral person have to establish an academy and educate all living beings? What qualifications do you have to compete for the God investiture strategy? Chen Ping shouted. Immoral? Ha, a pack of dogs barking wildly, is that considered immoral? Yan Chuan said indifferently. A pack of dogs barking? Pfft. Old Yan and Dongfang Zhenpai laughed out loud. The group of Confucian cultivators were arguing until their faces were red with anger. It was just like what Yan Chuan said, a pack of barking dogs. What did you say? The group of Confucian cultivators roared. I want to duel with you. Another Confucian cultivator said angrily. Yan Chuan's words scolded the hundreds of Confucian cultivators in the alliance. Immediately, the group of Confucian cultivators roared in anger. Immoral villains are not things that you say based on your subjective opinions. They have to be based on facts. Instead, it is the mad dogs that twist the facts and bark at people that are the real immoral villains. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Bastard, I am the disciple of the great sage Sima Yuntian. My body is filled with righteousness. How dare you slander me? Chen Ping shouted. What you mean is, like teacher, like disciple. Yan Chuan asked with a smile. Of course. Chen Ping said arrogantly. Ha, how did Sima Yuntian accept a disciple like you? It's fine if you are filthy, but you want to drag Sima Yuntian down with you? Yan Chuan said indifferently. Chapter 465. What? Are you qualified to say that a person is filthy? I think you are the one who is filthy. Chen Ping shouted. The two's cursing immediately attracted the curious gazes of countless cultivators in the surroundings. Yan Chuan versus Chen Ping was a rare sight. Old Yan and the others ate some of their treasured snacks as they watched with schadenfreude. Heaven is watching what a person does. Although reputation can cover people's eyes, it cannot cover heaven's heart. Yan Chuan said indifferently. What a person does. Heaven is watching. I, Chen Ping, have lived an upright life, worthy of heaven and earth. I have a righteous aura. How can a lowly person like you slander me? Chen Ping scolded. In that case, let heaven decide. I, Yan Chuan, am virtuous. I can testify to the sun and moon. Heaven and earth can testify. Until today, I have never had any thoughts of blasphemy toward Meng Rongrong. If I have any thoughts of blasphemy, may heaven strike me with lightning. Yan Chuan shouted. Swear. Everyone looked at Yan Chuan in disdain. What was the point of swearing? Would heaven care about an insignificant person like you? Humph. Hypocrite. Chen Ping scolded. I have already testified to heaven and earth. Now, it is your turn. Do you dare to say that you have no filthy thoughts about Meng Rongrong? Do you dare to swear to heaven? Yan Chuan said coldly. You want me to swear? Chen Ping showed a strange expression. However, many cultivators and Confucian cultivators stared at him from behind. Chen Ping immediately showed a serious expression. I, Chen Ping, swear to heaven that I have never had any thoughts of blasphemy toward Meng Rongrong. If I have any thoughts of blasphemy, may heaven strike me with lightning. Chen Ping shouted. Swear. Won't that be easy? It's not like I will lose anything. Just as Chen Ping was feeling pleased with himself, boom! The sky exploded. A bolt of heavenly lightning fell from the sky and blasted the roof of Seal's ceiling divine hall. The tiles shattered as the heavenly lightning struck Chen Ping's feet. Heaven struck me with lightning? Countless cultivators looked at the large hole in the roof in confusion. Old Yen shook out a small bean that he was about to put into his mouth. How can this be? It's heavenly lightning. Immediately, a commotion broke out in the main hall. The cries of cultivators could be heard everywhere. God is watching what you do. You have to remember that God is watching you. You can't just randomly make an oath. Yen Chuan said indifferently. Meow. Meow nodded, looking at him as if he was shameless. Everyone looked at Chen Ping in bewilderment. Could it be that Chen Ping had really made a vow? Chen Ping was so embarrassed that his face turned red. Struck by lightning? If the oath was confirmed, wouldn't that mean that he was a vile, despicable person? Bastard, you were blocked by the tiles just now. The heavenly lightning must have struck you. I'll hack you. Chen Ping shouted at Yen Chuan. Just as everyone was about to nod their heads. Boom! Another bolt of lightning fell from the sky. It passed through the hole in the roof and struck Chen Ping. Impossible! Chen Pingsheng shouted. Boom! Chen Ping's face was instantly charred black, and his hair was disheveled. Impossible! Impossible! Chen Ping could not accept the heavenly lightning's attack. How could this be? The surrounding cultivators were also at a loss. However, the voices opposing Yen Chuan were much softer now. They no longer looked at Chen Ping with reverence like before. Instead, they looked at him with disgust. Heavenly lightning struck him. He admitted that he was despicable. I said it before. God is watching what you do. If you are despicable, don't drag your teacher down with you. Yen Chuan said indifferently. Chen Ping wanted to say that it was Yen Chuan's doing. However, there were so many cultivators here watching. How could Yen Chuan do anything? Furthermore, this was true heavenly lightning. One could imagine that after today, Chen Ping's reputation would be ruined. Don't randomly make oaths in the future. I'll give you a few more words. Yen Chuan said indifferently. At this moment, no one made any noise in the main hall. Great Scholar Yen, lend me your brush. Yen Chuan said. All right. Old Yen happily handed over his brush as well. Old Yen and the two Confucian cultivators even took out a huge signboard. It was for Yen Chuan to inscribe. Yen Chuan did not stand on ceremony, writing on the signboard. When the brush landed, white light shone everywhere. Overwhelming righteousness. What a dense overwhelming righteousness. With righteousness in your heart, you are definitely righteous. Dongfang Zhengji cheered at the side. When Dongfang Zhengji said that, many cultivators who did not know their stance nodded. Yen Chuan did not put too much effort into writing. Hence, he only revealed a strong overwhelming righteousness. After he finished writing, he tossed the brush aside. He tossed it back on the table. I'll give you these 4 words. I hope you can work hard. Let's go. Yen Chuan said in a carefree manner. At this moment, no one stopped Yen Chuan. The group of Confucian cultivators opened up a path for Yen Chuan to walk out. Then, they looked at the 4 words that Yen Chuan wrote for Chen Ping. Overwhelming righteousness filled the main hall. On the signboard, the 4 words were incomparably shocking. Fishing for fame. Someone read it out. Fishing for fame. The meaning of these 4 words was even more dazzling than the overwhelming righteousness. How many pairs of eyes were blinded? Chapter 466. Vast righteous energy filled the main hall. On the signboard, there were 4 shocking words. Fishing for fame. Someone read out. Fishing for fame. The meaning of these 4 words was even more dazzling than the vast righteous energy. How many pairs of eyes were blinded? The alliance of snipers immediately fell silent. Chen Ping's face was red. Looking at these 4 words, he was about to faint from anger. Old Yen and the others who were in charge of the registration had a strange glow in their eyes. Great scholar Chen Ping, this is a gift for you. Here. Old Yen handed the huge signboard to Chen Ping. Chen Ping was ashamed and indignant as he took the signboard. Holding the signboard, he hated that he could not immediately smash it. Yen Chuan. Chen Ping's eyes were slightly bloodshot. Fishing for fame, is this Yen Chuan declaring war on Sima Yuntian? The surrounding cultivators were in an uproar. Today's event was a great humiliation. Chen Ping was filled with shame and indignation as he squeezed out of the crowd and quickly flew away from this sad place. TSK, who would have thought? You can know a person for a long time without understanding his heart. I heard that the virtuous Sima Yuntian's 72 disciples all had vast righteous energy in their hearts and were extremely intelligent. Now, it seems that this is not the case. Did Yen Chuan really not do anything to Meng Rongrong? Lightning? Could it be that this place is close to the 100 Saints' righteousness altar? Sensing the heaven and earth? That must be it. In the future, I can't just randomly swear here. The 2 sides of the battle left, leaving behind a group of cultivators who were all talking at once. Today's event would definitely spread to the entire city at the fastest speed. Watching the large group of cultivators leave, Old Yen in the conferred God Palace let out a strange laugh. Now it won't be boring, haha. Yen Chuan, Dongfang Zhenpai, Qing Long and Miao left the square and flew into the sky. Yen Chuan, what happened with the lightning? Don't tell me that it was the wrath of the heavens. I don't believe it. Dongfang Zhenpai said anxiously. Qing Long also looked at Yen Chuan curiously. It's the wrath of heaven. Yen Chuan laughed. Miao. Miao was also curious. That's impossible. That guy doesn't have the qualifications to be condemned by the heavens. Dongfang Zhenpai shook his head. With a faint smile, Yen Chuan admitted, just a little trick. This little trick was naturally the first level of the heaven-devouring Tao scripture, the azure thundercloud in the heavens court aperture. He could control 2 heavenly tribulations. Little tricks? This was a godly skill for acting. How did you do it? Dongfang Zhenpai asked excitedly. Yen Chuan shook his head and refused to say anything. Along the way, Dongfang Zheng asked several times, but Yen Chuan refused to say anything. Dongfang Zheng could only give up. He no longer entangled himself in this matter. Qing Long, help me collect all kinds of ancient records in the city, especially those related to history. The more, the better. For the next period of time, I will be reading in the Eastern Palace Hall. Yen Chuan said solemnly. Reading? What kind of books do you want to read? My Eastern Palace Hall has all kinds of books. Dongfang Zhenpai said. Oh. My Eastern Palace Hall has all the books in the past 50,000 years. There are 8 million books. Other than the Dean, I have the most books here. Dongfang Zhenpai said immediately. Oh. That's great. Yen Chuan nodded satisfactorily. But, you just defeated Chen Ping. Don't you want to pursue the victory and increase the impact? What books are you reading? Dongfang Zhenpai asked. I want to find some information. Yen Chuan said in a low voice. Chapter 467. The news of Yen Chuan signing up to fight against Chen Ping in the Temple of the Gods swept through the entire Julu city. Some people said that Yen Chuan was overestimating himself, while others said that Chen Ping deserved it. However, the most interesting thing was the fishing for fame sign. Countless cultivators discussed it enthusiastically. In a large hall on Julu Mountain. Meng Rongrong listened to the report of Changqing and the other Confucian cultivators. Really? Meng Rongrong said in a low voice. Every word is true. The group of Confucian cultivators nodded. All of you are dismissed. Meng Rongrong took a deep breath and said. Yes. Everyone retreated. Only Meng Rongrong was left in the hall. After everyone left, Meng Rongrong slammed her hand on the table. Her eyes were filled with anger. Bastard Yan Chuan, do I, Meng Rongrong, have no charm at all? How dare he say that he doesn't have any feelings for me? How dare he say such things after seeing me naked? Bastard, bastard, bastard. Meng Rongrong was furious. Julu Academy's main hall, Hall of Julu. Meng Rongrong's father, Meng Ziqiu, was stroking his white beard as he listened to the report of Elder Yen from the Temple of the Gods. Beside him stood a clean-shaven man. Headmaster, teacher, it's like this. Elder Yen said respectfully. Yui, what do you think? Meng Ziqiu asked with a smile. Yui, the headmaster of the left wing of the Julu Academy. The timing of the lightning is very strange. Yui frowned. Ha ha ha, it's just the right time. Meng Ziqiu said with a smile. Yes, I think Yan Chuan did it on purpose. Yui nodded. Yan Chuan. Yan Tao. This father and son reminded me of someone. Meng Ziqiu said after some thought. Oh. Yui asked curiously. Our Julu Academy has been established for 50,000 years. Every year, we record the major events of the world. There are very few people with the surname Yen. I've flipped through the ancient records and found another expert with the surname Yen. Meng Ziqiu said with a serious expression. Oh. Meng Ziqiu handed over a small booklet. Old Yen wanted to watch, but Meng Ziqiu waved his hand and said, You may leave. Yes. Old Yen sighed and left. Yui looked at the booklet. Undying Holy Land, Blade Demon's best friend, Yen Zizai. Yui frowned. Back then, Yen Zizai didn't transform into a blood demon. However, I remember that when the Julu Academy investigated the place where Yen Zizai disappeared, they found a 10,000 li sea of blood. This was recorded in the records. A 10,000 li sea of blood, a blood demon. We have no choice but to link them together. Meng Ziqiu said solemnly. Then let them mess around. Lui laughed. Yes, let them mess around. Meng Ziqiu nodded. Dean, Sima Yuntian wants to fight for the God investiture strategy and open a new academy. Isn't that too much? Yui frowned. Meng Ziqiu smiled bitterly and said, How can I not see it? Let's not talk about it. Let's go and drink. Yui nodded. Tiger Race's encampment. Bai Ditian swirled the crystal wine cup in his hand and tasted the wine as he listened to Zuo Wuzhou's report. King, I saw it with my own eyes. I was among that group of cultivators. Zuo Wuzhou said solemnly. Heavenly lightning accompanied them. Bai Ditian narrowed his eyes. King, could it be because of the 100 Saints' righteousness altar? The 100 Saints sensed the heavenly lightning? Zuo Wuzhou asked curiously. No, it should be that Yan Chuan. Bai Ditian narrowed his eyes. Yan Chuan. Zuo Wuzhou said in surprise. Continue to investigate. Bai Ditian said solemnly. Chapter 468. Yes. Zuo Qianxiu. Bai Ditian said indifferently. Yes. Go to Yan Chuan's hometown and collect all information on Yan Chuan. Go and come back quickly. This person is too evil. Bai Ditian said in a low voice. Yes. Julu City. The entire city was talking about the God Sealing Hall incident, and the one who suffered the most was Chen Ping. In the past, he was high and mighty. When he returned to Julu City, his reputation as one of the 72 Confucian scholars suppressed the countless Confucian groups in Julu City. However, today, he was completely humiliated. His glorious image was completely destroyed. He sat in a large hall and looked at the sign in front of him that said, "Fishing for Fame." His eyes were bloodshot. There were a few times when he wanted to break the sign to vent the anger in his heart. Whoosh! 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 A large number of footsteps came from outside the hall. Immediately, 31 white-robed Confucian cultivators walked in. "Junior brother, what happened?" The Confucian cultivators shouted as soon as they entered the hall. "Senior brothers, you have to seek justice for me today." Chen Ping was filled with grief and hatred. When he told them what happened during the day, the Confucian cultivators were all furious. How dare a lowly person fight with master for the god-sealing strategy? Not only did he humiliate junior brother, but he also humiliated all of us. He even smeared master's reputation. Arrogant scoundrel. The Confucian cultivators all shouted angrily. However, some of the Confucian cultivators looked at Yan Chuan's sign. "Fishing for fame. Righteousness." A Confucian cultivator said in a low voice. "Senior brother, this Yan Chuan seems to be quite capable." Another Confucian cultivator said. "Senior brother, we have to take revenge. Otherwise, our image will really be destroyed. How will master convince the people when he opens the academy?" Chen Ping said worriedly. "That's right. We can't just let it go." The Confucian cultivators nodded. "Senior brother Wang Long, you are master's 41st disciple and our senior brother. We regard you as our leader. What do you think we should do?" Everyone looked at a white-haired old man and asked. Wang Long thought for a moment and finally nodded. "That's right. We can't just let this go. We must suppress Yan Chuan's arrogance once again." "Senior brother, I have an idea," a great scholar suddenly said. "Oh. Before I came here, I did some research on Yan Chuan, and I did find some information. According to his father, Yan Tao, this Yan Chuan should be very young. Although his handwriting is good, so what? How could they compare to us? Let's hold a literary meeting and invite all the Confucian cultivators in Julu City to join us. We'll also invite Yan Chuan to join us." The great Confucian thought about it and said. That's right, that's right. At most, Yan Chuan knows some crooked ways. In the literary meeting, we'll talk about heroes based on literature. Once everyone writes, we'll definitely embarrass Yan Chuan. Another great Confucian said. Literary meeting. Alright, we'll hold a literary meeting. Wang Long nodded. Also, bring a brush. Wang Long said in a deep voice. Chen Ping quickly handed over a brush. Wang Long turned the signboard around and wrote on it solemnly. Invitation. As soon as he wrote these two words, a vast and righteous aura filled the hall. When the time comes, give this plaque to Yan Chuan and let him use it as an invitation to join our literary meeting. Wang Long stroked his beard and sneered. Senior brother is wise. How about this, if Yan Chuan doesn't want to come, it means that he admits that he's fishing for fame. If he's willing to come, we'll let him return with the plaque. Chen Ping said excitedly. Chapter 469. Julu City, Dongfang Palace Hall. Dongfang Zhenpai rushed to the Dongfang Palace Hall. The doors to the hall were wide open, allowing him to see Yan Chuan flipping through the pages of a book. Page by page, his speed was too fast. Miao was lying lazily on the table, taking a nap. In the hall, there were rows and rows of bookshelves. All the information about the Tiger clan from 20,000 to 21,000 years ago. Yan Chuan shouted as he flipped through the book in his hand. Yes. Qing Long walked around the bookshelves, searching quickly. He found a book and threw it neatly on Yan Chuan's table. Yan Chuan continued to flip through the books. Yan Chuan, not good, they are attacking. Dongfang Zhenpai rushed into the hall and shouted. Meow. Who is attacking? Meow was startled awake. That Chen Ping. He went back to find a group of seniors. The last 32 of the 72 great scholars have all been mobilized. Dongfang Zhenpai said. Oh. Yan Chuan paused. They're coming. Meow Meow stood up. Attacking? No, but it's about time. The 32 great scholars are obviously targeting you. Dongfang Zhenpai said. What do you mean? Didn't you offend Chen Ping that day? You threatened Sima Yuntian's reputation, so the 32 great scholars want to hold a meeting called Pinnacle Literary Meeting. Dongfang Zhenpai said. Pinnacle Literary Meeting? Meow looked at Dongfang Zhenpai curiously. The location, Yong Palace Hall. Dongfang Zhenpai said. Yong Palace Hall. Yan Chuan didn't understand. Yong Palace Hall is beside my Dongfang Palace Hall. Look, that's the floating island. Dongfang Zhenpai pointed at a floating island not far away. Although it wasn't as big as the floating island of Dongfang Palace Hall, it was close to the floating island. Meow, they're really attacking. That place is so close. Standing at the edge of the floating island, I can hear the sounds from the other side. Meow said. That's right, and this time, it's open to all the Confucian cultivators in Julu City. As long as you're willing, you can come and pay your respects. Dongfang Zhenpai said. So what? I don't have time recently. I'm busy. Yan Chuan frowned. There was too much information in his hands, and he couldn't find the information he wanted at the moment. They are already knocking on our door. Aren't you going to do anything? Dongfang Zhenpai was shocked. I'm not free. Yan Chuan shook his head. With that said, Yan Chuan continued to sit down and flip through the information. Dongfang Zhenpai opened his mouth, not knowing what Yan Chuan was looking for. Meow, I'll go with you. Meow was very curious. All right. Dongfang Zhenpai nodded speechlessly. Peak Literary Gathering. These words were like a gust of wind that swept through the entire Julu city. Countless Confucian cultivators were invited and opened to the public. Great Confucian Wang Long, Great Confucian Chen Ping, Great Confucian. A series of Great Confucian names made countless Confucian cultivators reveal looks of worship. Yong Hall. A gathering organized by the 32 Great Confucians. Isn't Yong Hall next to Dongfang Hall? Doesn't Yan Chuan live there? Could it be a gathering targeted at Yan Chuan? I heard that Yan Chuan and Sima Yuntian are fighting over the investiture of the god strategy. Could it be that the two sides have started fighting? 32 Great Confucians. This gathering will definitely be exciting. Peak Literary Gathering. I must go and take a look. Besides the invited Confucian cultivators, countless other Confucian cultivators were heading towards Yong Hall. Even those who weren't Confucian cultivators were heading towards Yong Hall curiously. Chapter 470. In an instant, countless practitioners gathered around the Yong Hall. The extravagance of the Great Confucian was huge, and the 32 Great Confucian scholars were even more so. This was not just a grand event, but a battle between Sima Yuntian and Yan Chuan. In the Meng Rongrong Hall. 32 Great Confucian Scholars. Literary Contest. Is there going to be a poetry contest? Meng Rongrong frowned. That's right, Mississippi. The poems of the Great Confucian scholars are priceless. This time, there are 32 Great Confucian scholars. This is an unprecedented event. Changqing said. That's right, Mississippi. The 32 Great Confucian scholars followed the great sage Sima Yuntian around the world. They must have accumulated countless good poems. This time, it will be a feast for the eyes. Miss, we are going to take a look. What about you? Meng Rongrong frowned. Me? Not interested. You guys go. Okay. Chongqing and the rest left the hall excitedly. In the hall, Meng Rongrong's eyes showed a trace of disdain. 32 great Confucian scholars. Literary contest Yan Chuan. Humph, a bunch of shameless people. After saying that, Meng Rongrong frowned. Why should I care about his life? Julu Hall. Literary contest. Hall Master Meng Ziqiu laughed. In order to maintain Sima Yuntian's image, they really did it. What a pity. Lui laughed. The two of them shook their heads as they drank. Beside them, the disciple who came to report, Old Yen, asked curiously, Teacher, what's a pity? It's too pretentious. Even if they humiliated Yan Chuan, they might not be able to redeem themselves. If they lose, I wonder how they will deal with it. Lui laughed. Lose? Is that possible? I heard that the 32 great Confucian scholars followed the great sage Sima Yuntian around the world and wrote countless poems. How can Yan Chuan win? Old Yen asked curiously. That year, Yen Tao, who thought that he would win? Lui asked. Ah. Old Yen stopped talking. 3 days later, in the evening, a large number of Confucian cultivators had gathered on the square of the Yong Palace, numbering close to 10,000. There were also a large number of non-Confucian cultivators around them. 10,000 scholars gathered and held a peak literary gathering. Countless Confucian cultivators revealed looks of excitement. At the same time, they all looked towards the deserted Eastern Palace with looks of pity. Perhaps in the eyes of the scholarly cultivators, this scholarly meeting would conveniently humiliate Yan Chuan. However, that was only in passing, because a brat who was still wet behind the ears was simply not qualified to talk about literature. The door of the Yong Palace was still closed. However, several Confucian cultivators were already respectfully carrying a signboard in the direction of the Eastern Palace. Fishing for fame. Isn't that the plaque with "Fishing for Fame" written on it? A Confucian cultivator immediately recognized it. No, there are words on the back. Invitation. This is. The scholarly cultivators immediately began to discuss amongst themselves. However, the plaque was quickly sent to the square of the Eastern Palace. What are you doing? Dongfang Zhenpai asked in a low voice. This is the invitation card that Chen Ping asked us to deliver to young master Yan Chuan. The Confucian cultivator said respectfully. Bastard, is this an invitation card? Dongfang Zhenpai said in a low voice. The Confucian cultivators respectfully bowed slightly, threw down the plaque, and turned around to leave. Stop! Dongfang Zhenpai shouted. However, the Confucian cultivators did not stop at all. Damn the invitation card! Miao said angrily. Fishing for fame? This is a slap in the face. Dongfang Zhenpai frowned. Let's go and see Yan Chuan. Dongfang Zhenpai turned around and said to Miao. Miao. Miao immediately nodded, and the cat and human quickly walked towards the Eastern Palace. They opened the door of the main hall and stepped inside. Chapter 471. Boom! The doors to the hall slammed shut. Everyone in the Yong Hall was left behind. In the Dongfang Hall, Yan Chuan continued to flip through the information. Bai Ditian. I finally found him. Yan Chuan's face lit up with joy. Qing Long, continue to look for information about this era. Quick! Yan Chuan said. Yes. Yan Chuan continued to flip through the information he had just found about Bai Ditian. Miao and Dongfang Zhenpai had already entered the hall with the plaque. Miao, Yan Chuan. Miao immediately jumped in front of Yan Chuan. What's wrong? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Look. Miao said angrily. Dongfang Zhenpai showed the plaque to Yan Chuan. Ha, then Chen Ping is here again? Yan Chuan revealed a hint of amusement. Not just that. The literary meet is about to begin. They sent it over in front of almost 10,000 Confucian cultivators. This is a slap to your face. Aren't you going? Dongfang Zhenpai said. Slap to the face. Are these mediocre people worthy? Yan Chuan said disdainfully. Mediocre people? Are you going? Dongfang Zhenpai said happily. I don't have time for now. Let them make a fuss first. Yan Chuan shook his head. Ah, but if you don't go, won't you be acknowledging this plaque? Dongfang Zhenpai said anxiously. Yan Chuan smiled and didn't say anything. He continued to read the information about Bai Ditian. In the Yong Hall, Chen Ping said happily, ha ha ha, Yan Chuan is a coward. He doesn't dare to come out. That's right. He will only embarrass himself if he comes. The group of Confucian cultivators smiled as they looked at Wang Long. Senior brother is so thoughtful. Even if Yan Chuan doesn't dare to come, we can still destroy his image. The group of Confucian cultivators laughed. Yan Chuan. Just a clown. Chen Ping said disdainfully. The leader, Wang Long, stroked his beard and said with a smile, it's about time, let's start the peak literary meet on time. Yes. All the great scholars nodded. Quang. The door of the Yong Palace slowly opened. The 32 great Confucians slowly stepped out of the main hall. Look, the great scholars are coming out. That's great scholar Wang Long, that's great scholar Chen Ping, that's. The peak literary gathering has finally begun. The 32 Confucian scholars became the focus of nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators. The sky darkened, but there were many luminous pearls illuminating the surroundings. The entire Yong Palace became resplendent. On the square in front of the Yong Palace, there was a high platform for the 32 great scholars to step onto. Greetings, great scholar Wang Long. Greetings, grand scholar Chen Ping. Yes. All of a sudden, the Confucian cultivators greeted him. Wang Long stretched out his hand and gestured slightly, and the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators stopped talking. In the blink of an eye, the peak literary meet had begun. Thank you all for coming to participate in my peak literary meet. After traveling the world with my teacher for hundreds of years, I have composed some poems for all of you to read. I hope you don't mind. Wang Long said politely. You're too kind, great scholar Wang Long. Yes, it's our honor to be able to participate in this peak literary meet. You're too kind. Compliments came from all around. Since that's the case, then all of you can sit on the ground and discuss Tao. Let's encourage each other. Wang Long smiled. Okay. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators responded. All the Confucian cultivators sat down. The 32 great scholars swayed their robes and sat down under Wang Long's lead. The surroundings of the Yong Palace were silent, and no one dared to make a noise. The peak literary meet had officially begun. Chapter 472. Yong Hall, Peak Literary Gathering. Close to 10,000 Confucian cultivators sat cross-legged, discussing poems with the 32 Confucian scholars. Chen Ping stood up and stood alone. The purpose of today's peak literary meet is not only to appraise the writings of us 32 brothers, but also to share with everyone if you have any good writings. Chen Ping said with a smile. Once Chen Ping said this, some of them became restless. Who didn't know how to write a poem or two? If they could use this opportunity to display their talents, they would be famous in Julu City tomorrow. Of course, writing a poem had its risks. If it was good, everyone would read it. If it was bad, one's reputation would be ruined. However, even with the risks, many of them were still looking forward to it. For the first poem, let me attract the attention of others. Chen Ping saw that some of them were restless and smiled. Some servants carried a large amount of brush and ink. Some attendants hurriedly carried over huge steels that were 30 meters tall. Chen Ping grabbed the brush, looked at the stone tablet, and immediately started writing on it. As the brush landed, a white light suddenly appeared. The overwhelming righteousness under the brush emitted a dazzling light. The light was even brighter in the night. In Yong Hall, it was extremely dazzling. In the distance, Dongfang Zhenpai and Miao from Dongfang Hall stood by the side and watched. Just writing about the overwhelming righteousness, that's all. Miao said disdainfully. Miao was disdainful, but the tens of thousands of Confucian cultivators in the distance applauded. On the stone tablet, a poem was written in the blink of an eye. Crazy born, down and out, I have become an old man. Independent study, I enjoy the night breeze. Seeking fame from the bottom of my brush, I throw it into the wild. After the poem was written, the overwhelming righteousness around the stone tablet shot into the sky. White light shot out in all directions. Good. In the distance, the Confucian cultivators shouted in admiration. Good my ass. Dongfang Zhenpai shouted. What's the matter? Miao asked. This is obviously directed at Yan Chuan. Crazy born. Down and out. Independent study. Seeking fame from the bottom of my brush. Throwing it away. Isn't this scolding Yan Chuan? Dongfang Zhenpai said angrily. Miao, Miao, that bastard. Miao also looked angrily into the distance. Dongfang Zhenpai and Miao outside of Dongfang Hall. In Yong Hall in the distance, Yong Hall. Many Confucian cultivators understood the meaning of the poem. The poem, Confucius, 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 Confucius. He was not a gentleman if he did not take revenge. Of the Confucian cultivators. If Chen Ping. Such a counterattack showed the demeanor of a gentleman. Amidst the compliments, Chen Ping smiled faintly and said, among teacher's disciples, I'm ranked last, and I'm also the one with the least literary talent. If anyone has any thoughts, feel free to comment. Great Confucian, you are too modest. The Confucian cultivators all laughed. I'm just throwing a brick to attract jade. If anyone has any good writing, you can also leave your writing. This time, we've prepared 100 stone tablets for those who have good writing. We'll erect them here for all generations to admire. Those who leave their writing will definitely leave their names in history. Chen Ping said. The moment Chen Ping said that, many people started to think about their poems to see if they were qualified to be on the stone tablet. Chen Ping squinted his eyes and smiled. He inadvertently glanced at the Eastern Palace Hall across from him and slowly sat down proudly. The first poem wasn't just to attract the attention of others. Sometimes, it was the theme of a literary gathering. It was aimed at Yan Chuan and had already pointed his sword at him. Next, no matter what kind of article it was all for the sake of the first poem. One poem after another, he wanted to suppress Yan Chuan until he was unable to show his face. Chapter 473. The Confucian cultivators pushed and pushed each other. Someone from the 32 great Confucian scholars came out to write a poem. Similarly, a majestic aura soared into the sky and shone brightly in all directions of the Yong Hall. The second stone tablet was erected, and it was yet another popular essay. Good. The crowd applauded. Then, more and more Confucian cultivators came out to write poems. Of course, only those who could write with a majestic aura had the courage to write. One tablet after another was erected. A majestic aura soared into the night sky and into the 9 heavens. Countless cultivators in the surroundings were full of praises for this grand meeting. The event gradually entered its climax. At this time, another great Confucian scholar wrote a word on a tablet. Mountains and rivers exist in the universe. Who would believe that swords fly and paint rocks? For words Xian and I once did not speak. What a pity for the beautiful world. The great Confucian scholar's brush fell. Similarly, a majestic aura soared into the sky. It was much more vigorous than before. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew in all directions. In the wind, there was a trace of moist rain. The wind blew across the square of the Yong Hall, causing the hair of the Confucian cultivators to dance and their robes to sway. The cultivators in the square suddenly fell silent. Shocking the wind and rain. Suddenly, a Confucian cultivator exclaimed. Shocking the wind and rain, it's really shocking the wind and rain. This. Many Confucian cultivators were excited. This was an extremely high level of calligraphy. Some Confucian cultivators could not reach this level in their lifetime. Shocking the wind and rain. That's the 50th disciple of the virtuous sage Sima Yuntian. Immediately, a Confucian cultivator recognized it. The Confucian cultivators were pleasantly surprised. The 50th disciple could shock the wind and rain. Shocking the wind and rain. After this essay was published, no other Confucian cultivator wrote. Only the great Confucian scholars were left. The great Confucian cultivators smiled. They realized that today's event was really worth it. Not only did they suppress Yan Chuan, but after today, the reputation of Sima Yuntian's 72 disciples would soar again. Meow, shocking the wind and rain. What's so great about that? Yan Chuan's left-hand writing is 1,000 times better than his. Meow said sourly. Do you think that startling the wind and rain is a cabbage? Dongfang Zhenpai said in disbelief. If you don't believe me, then so be it. Meow scoffed. Next, the 49th disciple, 48th disciple, all the Confucian scholars began to write. The following Confucian cultivators were all like a storm. The awe-inspiring vital energy had already turned the surroundings of the Yong Palace white. Why is it as bright as day? The surroundings of the Yong Palace were as bright as day. No matter where you looked in Julu City, the Yong Palace was like a bright moon hanging in the sky, dazzling beyond compare. In comparison, the Eastern Palace Hall was completely overshadowed. At this moment, in the eyes of the Confucian cultivators, Yan Chuan was nothing. In their hearts, he didn't have any status at all. The stone steels were like huge mountains, pressing down on Dongfang Dianshan. All the great Confucian scholars wrote down their names, and only the head of the great Confucian scholars, Wang Long, remained. Wang Long stood up, and so did Chen Ping. Everyone. 41st Senior Brother is the leader of our group of Confucians. Senior Brother's writings are not just impressive, Chen Ping said with a smile. Oh. All the Confucian cultivators let out excited looks. At this moment, everything seemed to have reached its climax. The great Confucian Wang Long was going to strike. If any of you have any literary ghosts, please take them out and use them to judge Senior Brother's writings. Chen Ping laughed. Chapter 474. Literary Ghosts. The 10,000 Confucian cultivators were surprised. Immediately, many of the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators flipped their hands and green lights appeared in their palms. The green lights flew into the sky and circled around the square of the Yong Hall. It was as if countless ghosts were flying around. This is... Miao looked at Dongfang Zhenpai. This is called literary ghosts. They are vengeful spirits that have been baptized by the righteous energy of the Confucian cultivators. After these vengeful spirits were baptized by righteous energy, they lost their memories and were taken in by the Confucian cultivators. They can sense the good and bad of some writings. Dongfang Zhenpai explained. Meow, literary ghosts. The Confucian cultivators are raising ghosts. Meow was surprised. You can't be considered a ghost anymore. You have no ghost energy and are tainted with literary energy. You can be a kind of demon pet. Dongfang Zhenpai explained. Meow. Meow seemed to understand. In the distance, thousands of ghosts flew towards the stone tablet. They seemed to be attracted by the words on the stone tablet and circled around. At the same time, Wang Long also picked up a brush. He stroked his beard and smiled. In the past, I traveled the world with my teacher. When I passed by a mountain temple, I had an epiphany. I hope everyone can comment on it. The Confucian cultivators held their breath and waited. Wang Long picked up the brush and started writing on the stone tablet. As he was writing, the literary ghosts that were circling around the stone tablet gradually swarmed towards Wang Long. Deep in the white clouds is called Zen. I visit the cloud pass to find the problem. The dense snow buries the stream, the spring enters the trees, the birds sing. The 3 quiet rooms are still there, the 5 carrier flow is also fast. The eagle peak is not far, the jade forest looks at the pill ladder. Whoosh! Rumble! Strong winds blew, and the surroundings were vaguely covered in clouds. Wang Long's brush strokes shocked the wind and rain, instantly suppressing the writings of the Confucian cultivators. Righteous energy soared to the sky. If the Yong Hall was a bright moon before, the current Yong Hall was a blazing sun. In Julu City, countless cultivators who did not come were awakened by the strange phenomenon. They all regretted and rushed over. More and more cultivators gathered around the Yong Hall. The brush strokes shocked the wind and rain. It was not over yet. The thousands of literary ghosts gathered around Wang Long's stone tablet. Woo 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 woo. Woo 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 woo. Amidst the wind, the cries of literary ghosts could be heard. His voice was very weak, but at this moment, Wan Ru was quietly standing to the side, watching this scene in shock. When the brush falls, it stirs the wind and rain. When the poem becomes, it cries the gods and ghosts. Immediately, a Confucian cultivator cried out. When the brush falls, it stirs the wind and rain, and when the poem becomes a ghost and god? The great Confucian Wang Long is really. The Confucian cultivators were at a loss for words. When they looked at Wang Long, they all revealed fanatical worship. With the release of this article, tonight's literary gathering reached its peak. Countless Confucian cultivators felt their blood boil. What a grand occasion! Let's have a toast. I have no regrets for what I have done today. The 72 disciples of virtuous paragons are indeed capable of moving the heavens. The sound of wind and rain, the cries of ghosts, praises, and exclamations filled the air around Yong Hall. The cultivators who had rushed over were all moved. His voice soared into the sky, accentuating the coldness of the Eastern Palace Hall. Kwang! The doors of the Eastern Palace Hall opened with a bang. An extremely discordant voice sounded in the direction of the Yong Palace. It's fine if you're just playing to the gallery, but you're making a ruckus in front of my palace. How am I supposed to calm down and read? This voice was very hooligan, and very shocking. The face of the great Confucian Wang Long, who had been flattered, suddenly stiffened. He felt disgusted. Chapter 475. It wasn't just Wang Long. The surrounding Confucian cultivators who were flattering Wang Long also glared at him. When the brush falls, it stirs the wind and rain. When the poem becomes, it weeps the gods and ghosts. Was this trying to please the crowd? All of them immediately glared in the direction of the voice. The doors of the distant East Palace opened. After the beautiful words appeared, the Confucian cultivators almost forgot about Yan Chuan. However, at this moment, everyone saw Yan Chuan walk out of the East Palace. He's not going to be a coward anymore. Chen Ping was stunned. Jumping out at this moment? This caused the originally shocked crowd to reveal a puzzled expression. Yan Chuan walked out, followed by Qing Long Miao. Yan Chuan, those people are too hateful. They're all cursing you. Miao immediately ran over. When the brush falls, it stirs the wind and rain. When the poem becomes, it weeps the gods and ghosts. Yan Chuan, this is a tough one. Why did you come out at this time? Dongfang Zhenpai asked, confused. Is a literary ghost considered a ghost? Yan Chuan said disdainfully. Ah. Dongfang Zhenpai said, confused. They've already kicked in. Let's go over. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Over? Now? Dongfang Zhenpai said in surprise. After all, the other side had 32 Confucian cultivators, and they already had everyone's support. If they went over now, wouldn't they be humiliating themselves? Yan Chuan carried Miao and walked out. Qing Long followed closely behind, holding a large signboard in his hands. Huh? Yan Chuan. He dares to come. The surrounding cultivators were all shocked. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators also showed confusion, pity in their eyes. Although Chen Ping's eyes were filled with mockery, for some reason, he suddenly felt uneasy. Uneasy? The two floating islands were not far from each other. In the blink of an eye, Yan Chuan arrived. Yan Chuan. Wang Long frowned. What are you doing here? A great scholar frowned. Qing Long, show him the invitation. Who sent it? Yan Chuan said indifferently. Yes. Qing Long took out the invitation card. Once it was out, everyone immediately recognized the words on it. Wang Long's words. The Confucians stared at Yan Chuan. Although Yan Chuan came late, he still became the center of attention. After all, Chen Ping's poem was aimed at Yan Chuan. Woo 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 woo. In the distance, the literary ghosts were still crying and reciting Wang Long's poem. When the brush falls, it stirs the wind and rain, and when the poem becomes a ghost and God? Yan Chuan showed a hint of disdain. What advice do you have for me? Wang Long maintained his image among the crowd of Confucians. That's right. If you have the ability, write it too. Chen Ping shouted. Yan Chuan glanced at Chen Ping. He waved his hand slightly. Qing Long immediately took out a brush. Close to 10,000 literary ghosts were crying and reciting Wang Long's poem. Yan Chuan picked up the brush and placed it on a huge stone tablet in front of him. Close to 10,000 Confucian cultivators and close to 100,000 spectators were all shocked. This Yan Chuan is really courting death. That's right. He dares to compete with Wang Long in poetry. He doesn't even have righteous energy, what's there to compete with? He overestimates himself. Sounds of ridicule and disdain came from all around. But at this moment, Wang Long suddenly had a bad premonition. His expression did not change, but his eyes were extremely sharp. Meow, meow. Meow bared its fangs and brandished its claws at the group of people who were criticizing Yan Chuan. Qing Long was slightly worried. The Eastern Orthodox faction was shameless, so it did not matter. Yan Chuan started writing. A lifetime of thinking to break the path of the mortal world, the sword is hidden in the cottage and hidden in the woods. 10,000 battles claim not to carry a blade, born with a pair of disdainful eyes. Chapter 476. Xing. As Yan Chuan's brush fell, a powerful murderous aura filled the entire square. The original wind and rain were suddenly stopped by the murderous aura that rushed out from the stone tablet where Yan Chuan's brush fell. As soon as the murderous aura came out, the people who mocked him all felt a chill in their hearts. Boom! Amidst Yan Chuan's poem, countless clouds rushed out. Within the clouds, there seemed to be a 300-meter-tall figure. It was a burly soldier, holding a long saber in his hand. He squinted his eyes and slashed forward. Under the momentum of the blade, it made people feel a bone-scraping pain. On the opposite side, the ode to 10,000 ghosts. At this moment, the 10,000 ghosts suddenly stopped. Under the fierce general that rushed out from Yan Chuan's poem, they all trembled and were inexplicably frightened. There was no boundless righteous aura. There was only 100 zhang tall peerless general in the clouds. The general's eyes narrowed slightly, despising the heroes. An endless domineering aura gushed out. For a moment, in the square, countless Confucian cultivators were breathless. The 32 Confucian cultivators were completely pale. 10,000 battles claimed that they did not use blades. Born with eyes that despised heroes. A poem, towering to the sky, majestic aura, 10,000 ghosts stopped crying. The wind and rain suddenly stopped. Even the majestic righteous aura was overshadowed in front of the general in the white fog. Showing the atmosphere when the brush falls? Someone exclaimed. That was a higher level. A level that almost 10,000 Confucian cultivators did not dare to imagine appeared today. The Confucian cultivators who originally mocked Yan Chuan now looked at Yan Chuan with endless fanaticism in their eyes. Domineering, domineering words, domineering poetry. This is Yan Chuan. Dongfang Zhenpian immediately looked at Yan Chuan excitedly, then turned to look at the 32 Confucian cultivators, revealing a trace of disdain. What did you write? So happy. You. Chen Ping was so angry that his face turned red. But in front of them, Yan Chuan's poem, everyone understood that they could not compete at all. It was not that the difference was not much, but the difference was too big. The brush falls to shock the wind and rain, the brush falls to show the atmosphere, it was a world of difference. Even a fool could see that. In front of Yan Chuan's poem, the original poem that had won the praises of tens of thousands of scholars was nothing but bullshit. The 32 Confucian scholars' eyes were filled with shame and anger. After Yan Chuan finished writing, he tossed the brush aside. In the eyes of the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators, his arrogance was natural and unrestrained. This was a true master of Confucianism. Yan Chuan turned to look at the 32 great scholars. Although the Confucian cultivators were excited, they didn't dare to breathe too loudly. They just looked at Yan Chuan and the 32 Confucian scholars. What a disgrace. Don't come in front of me. It's uncomfortable to watch and noisy. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Was it uncomfortable to watch? Was it too noisy? It was as if heavenly thunder had exploded in the ears of the 32 great scholars. Yan Chuan, what did you say? Who are you calling a disgrace? Chen Ping's face immediately turned red. Yan Chuan glanced at Chen Ping and sized him up. Although he didn't say anything, his eyes seemed to say, hey, isn't this a disgrace? When Chen Ping saw Yan Chuan's eyes, he felt even more depressed. Pfft! He was so angry that he vomited blood. I've already given the plaque to you. Don't send it back. Take it back and keep it well. Yan Chuan said indifferently. As he spoke, he touched the words invitation on the back of the plaque. The 4 words, fishing for fame, were clearly displayed on the front. Fishing for fame. Qing Long solemnly handed it to Wang Long. Everyone, this is my young master's calligraphy. Keep it well. Qing Long said indifferently. Pfft. Another great scholar vomited blood because of Yan Chuan's plaque. Let's go. Yan Chuan turned around and said. He flew to the East Hall. The surroundings were still quiet. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators and 100,000 cultivators made way for him. Their eyes were full of amazement. At this moment, the 32 great scholars were holding a huge plaque with the words fishing for fame written on it. Many pairs of eyes were blinded by the words on it. Chapter 477. The 32 great scholars were holding a huge plaque with the words, fishing for fame, written on it. Many pairs of eyes were blinded by the words. They came in high spirits and were confident that they would win. They were prepared to teach this brat who dared to provoke their teacher a lesson and at the same time, raise the reputation of the 72 great scholars. He was about to succeed and his name was going to shake Julu City. After tonight, his brush strokes would shock the wind and rain, and his poem would become a legend that would last for eternity. Just when everyone was at the peak of their excitement. Yan Chuan, that bastard, appeared. His brush created a phenomenon, and in the blink of an eye, everything under their feet collapsed. The higher they were pushed, the worse they fell. A bottomless abyss. A peerless general. His blade made ghosts cry. His words suppressed the light of righteousness. Once the poem was written, the great scholars understood that there would be no more poems to speak of tonight. There would be no more poems tonight. Who could still write poems? If they couldn't, they would only be despised. The 32 great scholars' hearts were bleeding. Yan Chuan's slap to the face this time was even more severe than the lightning strike that Chen Ping experienced previously. After all, it wasn't Chen Ping's domain last time. This time, it was the domain of the 32 great scholars. Furthermore, it was a domain that they had carefully prepared. How could they be slapped in their own domain? Looking at the peerless general in the white mist, the 32 great scholars didn't see him holding a blade. Instead, he was slapping his own face. There was complete silence. This was also the tragedy of the 32 great scholars. From now on, they would never be able to raise their heads in front of Yan Chuan again. Pft! Pft! Another few Confucian scholars coughed up blood from the immense pressure. They watched the group leave. After tonight, Yan Chuan's name would rise again in Jilu City. Chen Ping wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Yan Chuan with hatred. Then, he looked at the huge plaque that Yan Chuan had written. There wasn't a trace of admiration in his heart. There was only endless hatred. Looking at the giant monument, Chen Ping wished he could tear it into pieces. He clenched his fists and his eyes were bloodshot. He was about to smash the huge plaque. Pa! At the side, Wang Long reacted quickly and grabbed Chen Ping's hand. Senior brother? Chen Ping asked in confusion. If you break this tablet, teacher will also be implicated by you. Wang Long shook his head and sighed. If we lose, then we lose. We are only the last 32 disciples. If we lose, then we have to show our integrity. We can't lose our morals. If we lose, then there will be senior brothers who will seek justice for us. If we lose, then there will be an invincible teacher. I underestimated Yan Chuan. Wang Long sighed. It has nothing to do with senior brother. Before this, none of us thought that Yan Chuan would be so powerful. The other Confucian scholars said one after another. Let's go back. Wang Long sighed. Looking at the signboard in his hand that read, Fishing for Fame, a grand scholar's eyes flashed with anger, as if he wanted to destroy it. Wang Long reached out to take it and shook his head. Fishing for fame and compliments. The 32 great Confucians stepped on the wind and flew away from this troublesome place under the astonished gazes of the thousands of Confucians. Phew! Yan Chuan is so powerful. Yeah, this year's peak scholarly gathering was too exciting. The virtuous sage Sima Yuntian has finally met his match. Although Yan Chuan is strong, he might not be comparable to a virtuous sage. Moreover, these 32 great Confucians are only the weaker ones among the 72 great Confucians. In any case, I think that Yan Chuan will win. Impossible, Sima Yuntian is stronger. Chapter 478. In an instant, the Confucian cultivators were in an uproar. Yan Chuan, who they did not think highly of in the past, was now taken seriously by many. He was even on the same level as Sima Yuntian. This time, Yan Chuan defeated the 32 Confucian scholars in the peak literary gathering. One could imagine that the two sides would have a lot of literary battles in the future. Everything has only just begun, one of the Confucian cultivators said. After this sentence, almost everyone felt their blood boiling. Yes, this was going to be exciting. With a domineering poem, Yan Chuan's reputation once again shook the entire city. In the city, countless cultivators looked up at the East Hall. There, a new star was rising. Meng Rongrong's residence. What? How is that possible? Meng Rongrong said in surprise. A few Confucian cultivators who had returned from the peak literary gathering nodded and said, "It's true. Miss, you didn't see it." At that time, Yan Chuan's poem made them spit out blood. Those Confucian scholars were already powerful, but how could they be a match for Yan Chuan? Wang Long had already reached the level of shocking the wind and rain, and his poem made ghosts and gods weep. But what can we do? Since Xinglong, why Xingchuan? A group of Confucian cultivators were talking at once. Meng Rongrong had a complicated look in her eyes. She did not know why, but she secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Julu Hall. In the square, one could overlook Julu City. The Dean Meng Ziqiu and the Dean Yu stood with their hands behind their backs, looking in the direction of the Yong Hall. Creating a scene with his brush. This Yan Chuan is amazing. Yui frowned. Back then, his father, Yan Tao, turned Julu City upside down. After 100 years, this son is still worrisome. Meng Ziqiu laughed. Not only worrisome, but from the looks of it, he is going to surpass him. Yui sighed. I wonder how Sima Yuntian will react this time. Meng Ziqiu laughed bitterly. Him. If it were back then, I would definitely retaliate. However, after a few hundred years, I can't see through him anymore. Lui shook his head. Then let's wait a little longer. Meng Ziqiu said coolly. Inside the Eastern Palace Hall. Meow, Yan Chuan, you were awesome just now. I'm dying of laughter. That person was so happy to scold you just now, and now he's vomiting blood because of you. Meow shouted excitedly. Qing Long was also slightly excited. Qing Long didn't have much literary talent. In the past, he didn't even care about literary battles. But after experiencing it with his own eyes, Qing Long felt his blood boil. I've been unhappy with Wang Long for a long time. Old fogey, how dare you disrespect your elders? You actually have so many concubines. Dongfang Zhenpai scolded. It was hard to tell whether it was disdain or jealousy. Yan Chuan smiled faintly and did not take it seriously. Oh right, you slapped their faces again. They will definitely retaliate even more fiercely. You have to be careful. Dongfang Zhenpai's face suddenly turned serious. No worries. Qing Long, continue to search. Yan Chuan said to Qing Long, yes, young master. Qing Long said respectfully. Meow, you really did come out to read books and send them away. Meow said in surprise. What else did you think? Yan Chuan laughed. Meow, I thought you waited until the end just to slap him in the face. Meow Meow said blankly. Fuck. Dongfang Zhenpai also said blankly. Julu City, in a large hall, there were 60 people sitting. Chapter 479. Wang Long, Chen Ping, and the others were among the 60 people. In the center of the hall, there was a huge signboard. Fishing for fame. It was extremely eye-catching. The 32 Grand Confucians who had been humiliated in the Yong Hall were pale as they looked at the other 28 men in white with great respect. Senior brothers. Chen Ping said with an ugly expression. I underestimated Yan Chuan. Senior brothers, please punish me. Wang Long said as he stood up. Everyone looked coldly at Wang Long. The square-faced leader said in a deep voice, you provoked him without knowing the situation. It's indeed your fault. It's not all Wang Long's fault. Yan Chuan is so young. Who would have thought that he would have such accomplishments? Another Grand Confucian said in a deep voice. Senior brothers, we've lost and lost face for master. Senior brothers, please seek justice for us. Chen Ping said solemnly. Seek justice. Humph. The group of Grand Confucians snorted and looked at Chen Ping. Chen Ping did not dare to say anything. The leading Grand Confucian thought for a while and said, Yan Chuan signed up for the God investiture strategy, so a fight with us is inevitable. We can't remain indifferent to our defeat. Senior brother Lu Zilu, should we report this to teacher? Wang Long asked. The leading Grand Confucian, Lu Zilu, shook his head and said, at this moment, teacher is leading the 12th senior brother. He won't care about external affairs. That's right. We can't disturb teacher. Teacher is at a critical juncture. He will only do his best when the competition for the God investiture strategy starts. Another Grand Confucian said. This time, teacher is not only competing for the God investiture strategy, but also has important things to do. We can't ruin teacher's plans. Lu Zilu nodded. Senior brothers are the most senior here. Senior brother Lu Zilu, what do you think? Wang Long said. Lu Zilu pondered for a while and said, even though it's impressive that the writing style manifests the atmosphere, it's not just about words. When my teacher traveled around the world, he wrote some beautiful essays that could move the heavens and earth. Some of his essays were given to us, and that's a height that Yan Chuan could never reach. That's right. Essays are made by nature. It's not easy to write a splendid essay. Most of the time, it depends on fate. I don't believe that Yan Chuan can write a splendid essay so casually. Even if he can write one, it's impossible for him to write a second one. It depends on fate. Another great Confucian nodded. Senior brother is wise. Chen Ping immediately praised. It's just a pity that such a beautiful piece of literature will be wasted on this child. What a pity. Wang Long sighed softly. Is it a pity? It's not a pity. This is just the beginning. Don't we have anything else other than articles? Lu Zilu sneered. In Jiulu City. In a restaurant. There were two men sitting on a chair. One of them was dressed in white. It was the white tiger that Miao changed his name to Bai Long. Next to him was a man with an extremely carefree appearance. He had a head of black hair and was wearing a green scholar's robe. He looked extraordinary. Bai Long listened to the discussions in the restaurant. Young master is really amazing. We just entered the city and there's already news about him everywhere. Defeated a group of Confucians? Bai Long exclaimed. Defeated a group of Confucians? The king is always so dazzling no matter where he goes. The man in the green Confucian robe sighed softly. Mr. Yifeng, since we know that young master is in the East Hall, let's go. I can't wait. Is young master's poem really that amazing? Bai Long took a deep breath and said excitedly. Yifeng was the grand preceptor of the Yan state. He once played chess with Yan Chuan and later stayed in the Yan state for Yan Chuan. There's no hurry. At least let me finish this mouthful of wine. Yifeng smiled. Chapter 480. Jiulu City. East Palace Hall. In the East Palace Hall, there were piles of books that described how busy Yan Chuan had been over the past few days. Yan Chuan had a book in front of him. He flipped it open to a picture album. There was a picture of a jade pendant on the album. Yan Chuan furrowed his brows as he tapped the table with his fingers. He was deep in thought. Bai Ditian. 8,000 years ago. An ambitious and ruthless person. Yan Chuan pondered. Miao. What's wrong? Miao asked curiously. Only Yan Chuan and Miao were in the palace hall. Everyone else had left. Based on this information, I have figured out why Bai Ditian reincarnated. Yan Chuan said after pondering for a while. Why? Back then, Bai Ditian and his wife had reached the pinnacle of the emptiness realm. They must have gone through the heavenly tribulations at the same time. Unfortunately, they found out that Bai Ditian's wife was pregnant during the heavenly tribulations. Bai Ditian sacrificed himself to help his wife ascend to the immortal realm. Yan Chuan said. I see. Miao didn't think too much about it. Miao was too optimistic. If it were someone else, they would have found the loophole in Yan Chuan's story. Pregnant? Even Bai Ditian didn't know about it. How did Yan Chuan find out? Miao. They are back. Miao jumped out of the palace hall excitedly. Yan Chuan was the only one left in the palace hall. He was looking at the picture on the table. Bai Tu sure, hee. I didn't expect that I would find out about your identity. I even met your father. When we go back, you must treat me to a drink. Yan Chuan smiled bitterly. Go back. Yan Chuan thought for a while. Bai Ditian's son was near where I was in my previous life. Could it be a coincidence? No, it can't be a coincidence. How can there be so many coincidences in the world? If it isn't a coincidence, then there is only one possibility. Yan Chuan frowned. After I ascended to the immortal realm, this world is very close to where I was in my previous life. In other words, this world is not far from where I was in my previous life. Since it's not far, I know where I was. Why didn't I know this place? Where is this? Yan Chuan frowned as he pondered. Well, Yan Chuan. Azure Dragon and Dongfang Zhenpai walked into the hall. Young master, we've searched through all kinds of green jade in the city and found a total of 200 types. Azure Dragon said. Why? Why? Seeing Azure Dragon take out a large number of fist-sized green jades, Yan Chuan smiled faintly and said, Dongfang Jing sect, I might need to borrow your Dongfang Highness for a period of time. Oh, no problem. I don't even have a single servant here. If you like, feel free to stay. Dongfang Zhenpai said straightforwardly. Yan Chuan sifted through the 200 types of jade and soon found one of them. What is the use of this jade? Dongfang Zhenpai asked. Yan Chuan smiled faintly. He gathered his qi into the shape of a knife and began to carve the fist-sized jade. Rustle. Rustle. A large amount of jade fragments flew into the air, and before everyone's eyes, a jade pendant appeared in Yan Chuan's palm. It looks similar to the one in the picture. No, it's different. It doesn't look like it. Dongfang Zhenpai looked at the picture on the table. This is a set. Yan Chuan said. A set? Dongfang Zhenpai thought. Azure Dragon, I'll have to trouble you again. Yan Chuan said solemnly. What are you talking about, master? If you need anything, just let me know. Qing Long smiled. He took a deep breath and looked at the jade pendant in his hand. Then, he said, send this jade pendant to Bai Ditian. Chapter 481. Bai Ditian? Qing Long exclaimed in shock. Yan Chuan had been investigating Bai Ditian's background, and Qing Long had a rough idea. This Bai Ditian was an incredible figure 8,000 years ago. The sovereign of the tiger race? Jade pendant? That's right. Pass the jade pendant to him. You don't have to say much. Just pass me a message and you can come back first. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Young master, please speak. Qing Long received the jade pendant solemnly. Although he didn't understand Yan Chuan's intentions, he knew that this was a serious matter. Tell him that I, Yan Chuan, will be waiting for you at Jilu City's East Hall. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Qing Long nodded and stepped out of the hall. Meow. Meow's eyes were filled with confusion. Dongfang Zhenpai's eyes were also filled with curiosity. Bai Ditian? Is it really that Bai Ditian? Dongfang Zhenpai exclaimed in shock. It can't be wrong. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Then why are you looking for him? Dongfang Zhenpai didn't understand. Let's be friends. Yan Chuan smiled. Ah. Dongfang Zhenpai's eyes were filled with disbelief. Not long after Qing Long left, there was a loud commotion outside the East Hall. Someone else is here? Dongfang Zhenpai asked curiously. Yan Chuan had been cooped up in the hall for the past few days. He carried Miao out of the hall. Outside the floating island, there was a slight ripple in the void. It was obvious that the array was blocking the people outside. Dongfang Zhenpai waved his hand, and the array was deactivated. 3 Confucian scholars flew into the plaza. One of them was the leader, while the other 2 carried a signboard. It's you. Why are you here again? Dongfang Zhenpai immediately shouted. The leader of the Confucian scholars smiled bitterly and nodded. Everyone, it's me again. The great Confucian scholars have asked me to send an invitation to Yan Chuan. As he spoke, the 2 people behind him quickly carried a huge signboard. It was still the same signboard that said, "Fishing for Fame." Behind the signboard, the words, "Invitation," were written again. Have these Confucians gone mad? Why are they still keeping this plaque? Aren't they afraid of losing face? Dongfang Zhenpai exclaimed. Yan Chuan smiled faintly. The literary summit is not over yet. All the great Confucian scholars have returned once again. Yan Chuan, please move to the Yong Hall. The 3 Confucian scholars said respectfully. After saying that, the 3 Confucian scholars left behind their invitations, turned around and flew away. Yong Palace. Yan Chuan, Dongfang Zhenpai, and Miao all looked toward the Yong Palace Hall. On the high platform of the Yong Hall, the original 32 great Confucians had now become 60. All of them stood with their hands behind their backs, looking in the direction of Yan Chuan. Below the high platform, nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators had gathered. What's wrong with these scholars? That group of Confucian cultivators scattered, but they summoned them back. Dongfang Zhenpai said in surprise. Miao. Miao was also curious. In the distance, all the scholars looked in the direction of Yan Chuan. The leader of the 60 great Confucians was a square-faced Confucian. Lu Zilu led the other Confucians to look at Yan Chuan. Your humble servant is Lu Zilu. Some time ago, Prince Yan shone brightly at the literary summit. Your humble servant has several wonderful essays. I would like to invite Prince Yan to review them together. Lu Zilu said with a slight bow. Lu Zilu's attitude was very respectful. However, anyone could tell that this was a provocation. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators had just received the news that the 60 great Confucians had sent invitations to the Yong Hall to continue the literary summit. There was not much written in the invitations, but the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators were immediately stirred up. Who could not tell? Wang Long, Chen Ping, and the others had lost and were calling for reinforcements. Although they looked down on the actions of the great Confucians, this kind of competition was what all the Confucian cultivators looked forward to. Without saying a word, the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators immediately dropped everything they were doing and rushed to the Yong Hall. Some of them even dragged a few good friends to the Yong Hall to watch the battle between the 2 great literary factions. This kind of clash between literary factions was a fatal temptation to the Confucian cultivators. This time, no one mocked Yan Chuan. They only looked forward to it. 60 great Confucians. Even if Yan Chuan lost, it would not be embarrassing. Fighting against a group of Confucians alone. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators looked expectantly at Yan Chuan in the distance. They hoped that Yan Chuan would come over. Miao, these guys are not afraid of death. Yan Chuan, let's go and trample them to death. They still have the face to come. Miao said excitedly. Yan Chuan, they must have come prepared. Dongfang Zhenpai said with a frown. Yan Chuan looked into the distance, and a strange smile appeared in his eyes. Wonderful essays. I'll just watch from here. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Yan Chuan did not go over. It was as if he would lose his dignity if he did. None of the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators were dissatisfied. Those who were capable naturally had their own pride. In the distance, Lu Zilu raised his eyebrows. He waved his hand lightly. Suddenly, a new stone stele appeared. A Confucian cultivator carefully took out a box with a scroll inside. The Confucian cultivator tied the scroll to the stone stele and gently unfurled it. When the scroll unfurled, a fishy smell immediately assaulted his face. Walala! The sound of countless waves could be heard. When the scroll unfurled, blue light soared into the sky. A huge illusory image suddenly appeared in the sky, and waves of blue mist enveloped the illusory image. Boom! 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 Huge waves rose and fell in the illusory image. Inside the illusory image was a vast sea that was 2,000 feet in size. The sea surged and roared endlessly. Hua! The image of a painting? More than that. This is a beautiful essay. The essay contains a beautiful image. This is a sea. A single essay contains the vastness of the sea. Waves of exclamations came from all around. The splendid essay rushed out with great momentum and momentum. Instantly, it collided with Yan Chuan's poem. Although the murderous aura of a peerless general was strong, the momentum of the vast sea was even more spectacular. Moreover, the area of blue mist was twice as large as the area of white mist. The huge impact immediately suppressed Yan Chuan's poem slightly. It was a beautiful piece of writing. Immediately, countless Confucian cultivators revealed looks of worship and fanaticism. The 60 Confucian cultivators stroked their beards, their eyes flashing with pride. Especially Wang Long, Chen Ping, and the others. The depression from a few days ago was finally alleviated. Yan Chuan's poem was finally suppressed. Great! Moreover, there were a few such splendid essays in his line of work. Let's see what Yan Chuan will do now. While the Confucian cultivators were feeling proud, they subconsciously glanced at Yan Chuan in the East Hall in the distance. But when they saw Yan Chuan, their faces all froze. In the distance, Yan Chuan did not look at them at all. Instead, he was happily facing two strange people. This beautiful essay can't compare to those two guys who came out of nowhere. The Confucian cultivators' faces darkened slightly. In the square of the East Hall, Bai Long and Yi Feng arrived. Young master! Bai Long shouted excitedly. Greetings, my king. Yi Feng bowed respectfully. Ha 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 ha, no need to be so polite. Yan Chuan immediately stepped forward to support Yi Feng with a smile on his face. Chapter 482. With Yi Feng's arrival, Yan Chuan was delighted. Yan Chuan and Yi Feng were catching up outside the East Hall, which made the scholars of the number 60 sect speechless. This was blatant disregard. You don't even care about the scholars of the number 60 sect? Chen Ping was about to glare at them. Lu Zilu waved his hand and stopped Chen Ping's impulse. Looking into the distance, Lu Zilu was slightly worried. He waved his hand again. A scholar nodded. Another giant stele appeared, and another scroll was gently hung up. Wan Ru looked at Yan Chuan in the distance in confusion, but more than that, he looked at the second scroll excitedly. The scroll slowly opened, and a wave of heat hit their faces. Yellow light soared into the sky, and a large amount of yellow fog rushed out of the scroll. In the yellow fog, a different scene appeared. A rolling desert. An endless expanse of scorching sun. Although they were in Julu City, looking at the words, everyone felt as if they were in a desert. This was not a painting, but a poem. It was a poem, and the words were used to describe a desert, which immediately attracted the admiration of the group of Confucian cultivators. The desert stretched as far as the eye could see, and it was even bigger than the sea beside it. Although it was only 200 feet in diameter, the scorching sun of the desert seemed to be evaporating the sea water beside it. Rumble. The momentum of the desert pressed against the shadow of the fierce general. The pressure of the cold and the heat reduced the shadow of the peerless warrior by half. In terms of the momentum of the words, it had completely suppressed Yan Chuan's poem. Lu Zilu showed a satisfied smile, and the scholars were also very satisfied. They looked at Yan Chuan in the distance again. In the distance, Yan Chuan and Yi Feng's catching up was about to end. Yan Chuan, I have 3 more pieces of calligraphy here. Can you comment on them? Lu Zilu shouted with satisfaction. Lu Zilu shouted, and everyone looked at Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan and Yi Feng also slowly turned around. Suddenly, he saw the sacred scenery outside the Yong Hall. Miao, Yan Chuan, your poem has been suppressed. Miao suddenly shouted. My poem? They don't deserve to use my poems. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Miao. Miao looked at Yan Chuan curiously. Yan Chuan, this is splendid prose. What should we do? They have prepared 5 pieces of calligraphy. Dongfang Zhenpai said worriedly. The magnificent waves and the sands of the world. Good poem. Julu City indeed lives up to its reputation. These 2 poems are truly formidable. Yi Feng exclaimed in admiration. Yan Chuan smiled faintly. However, Your Majesty's poem is also very domineering. This group of scholars is obviously here to cause trouble for Your Majesty. Does Your Majesty have any new poems? Yi Feng's eyes flashed with anticipation. Dongfang Zhenpai, who was standing at the side, immediately shouted, how can it be that easy? The qi will appear when the brush is drawn, but the qi might not be as you wish. You have to use the splendid writing to control it. Miao, this group of baddies. Miao suddenly said angrily. Moreover, every piece of splendid prose will be famous as long as it is born. Therefore, it is impossible to copy the previous works. Yan Chuan, you are in trouble now. Dongfang Zhenpai said worriedly. He, I have a lot of such works. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Ah. No way. Dongfang Zhenpai said in surprise. You all wait here. Yi Feng, follow me into the hall. Yan Chuan said with a smile. All right. Although Dongfang Zhenpai didn't believe it, he still nodded. Bai Long hugged the board that said, fishing for compliments and stood together with Dongfang Zhenpai. He watched as Yan Chuan, Yi Feng, and Miao walked back into the hall. Chapter 483. Bang! The door slammed shut. On the other side, Wang Long raised his eyebrows. Is Yan Chuan afraid? Is he going to run away? Chen Ping laughed. Ha ha ha, he's a coward again. Teacher's ordinary calligraphy is not something that kid can compare to. Another scholar said disdainfully. Lu Zilu shook his head and said, no, Dongfang Zheng's sect and that person are still holding the plaque outside. Yan Chuan might have entered the Dongfang Hall to write. Right? How much can he write at this time? Chen Ping said disdainfully. Wait patiently. Lu Zilu said lightly. Okay. The group of scholars nodded. The scholars were also very curious at this moment. Many of them thought that Yan Chuan was afraid, but the 60 scholars waited patiently, and the commotion immediately subsided. In the Dongfang Hall. Miao. Another scroll. Miao shouted excitedly. In the blink of an eye, 100 scrolls were placed on a chair. Yi Feng tied each scroll with a trace of excitement. Wang, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Yi Feng said in surprise. I said, this is not my essay. But it belongs to me. Yan Chuan shook his head and said. Miao, if it's not written by you, then who wrote it? Miao was puzzled. Yan Chuan shook his head and did not explain. It was more troublesome to explain. As the emperor in his previous life, the top scholar in the imperial examinations would write beautiful essays. The top scholar. That was the top scholar in every examination. In his previous life, Yan Chuan's country was much bigger than the Jiulu Academy. There were many talented people everywhere. During the imperial examinations, the beautiful essays were constantly handed to Yan Chuan's table. Yan Chuan only took 100 of them. How could the top scholar be bad? Moreover, this was a group of top scholars. The poem that Yan Chuan had written previously was merely a poem written by a martial arts scholar. He hadn't even seen Sima Yuntian. Was there a need to go all out? Your Majesty, you want me to go? Yi Feng understood tacitly. That's right. I have more important things to do from now on. You'll have to take care of these pedantic scholars for me. As for the art of chess, I'm sure none of them are better than you. Play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses. Stall for some time for me. During this time, something might happen in the Eastern Palace Hall. Don't worry about it. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Your Majesty, please rest assured. I also want to meet this group of great scholars. Yi Feng said with a smile. Yan Chuan nodded. Soon, the doors of the Eastern Palace opened once more under the gazes of the crowd. Quang! As soon as the door opened, the Confucians in the distant Yong Hall immediately perked up. Yan Chuan actually dared to come out. Chen Ping revealed a trace of disdain. Yan Chuan walked in front, and Yi Feng came out with a large stack of scrolls. Chen Ping looked at the 100 scrolls that Yi Feng had brought out. The faces of the Confucians in the distance twitched. Is this Yan Chuan crazy? He didn't really write, did he? And so many at that? A Confucian cried out in shock. Bah! In such a short time, he can write splendid prose. And 100 scrolls at that? Humph! Chen Ping snorted disdainfully. It wasn't just Chen Ping. The nearly 10,000 Confucians were also confused. What was he doing with a stack of scrolls? Yan Chuan, what are you doing? Dongfang Zhenpai asked in confusion. Bai Long, help me protect Yi Feng. Remember, Yi Feng's safety comes first. Yan Chuan looked at Bai Long. Yes. Bai Long solemnly said. Thank you, Your Majesty. Yi Feng nodded. Mr. Yi Feng, what are you holding? Let me help you. Bai Long immediately stepped forward. Chapter 484. Yi Feng nodded and handed all the scrolls to Bai Long. Dongfang Zhenpai, I told you before that I would like to borrow your palace for a while. Do you remember? Yan Chuan asked with a smile. Of course, you can do whatever you want. Dongfang Zhenpai nodded. Since that's the case, I will prepare to go into seclusion. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Seclusion? What about the group of scholars? Dongfang Zhenpai asked in surprise. Don't worry. Yi Feng is here to help me. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Him. Dongfang Zhenpai looked at Yi Feng in surprise. Yan Chuan nodded. Yi Feng smiled and nodded at Dongfang Zhenpai. Dongfang Zhenpai was speechless. All right. Dongfang Zhenpai nodded speechlessly. After saying that, Yan Chuan walked back into the palace with Miao following behind him. Bang! The door of the palace slammed shut. Everyone looked at Yan Chuan and was speechless for a long time. Senior brother, is Yan Chuan really going to be a coward? Chen Ping asked in surprise. I don't know. Wang Long frowned. The two of them are coming. They are carrying 100 scrolls and that signboard. Chen Ping said in surprise. Lu Zilu squinted his eyes and looked at Yi Feng and Bai Long flying over. Dongfang Zhenpai took a look and stood guard outside Dongfang Hall, spontaneously protecting Yan Chuan. In the East Palace. Meow, put the books in the palace away. Don't break them. Yan Chuan said to Meow. Meow. Meow's felt hat produced a strong suction force and sucked a large number of books into it. Meow, big hooligan, why are you going into seclusion? Are you going to break through again? Meow asked in confusion. No, I want to nourish my spirit and climb to the peak. Next, there might be a fierce battle. Yan Chuan said with a faint smile. Fierce battle? Meow. Who is it? Bai Ditian. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Yong Hall. On the high platform. Bai Long and Yi Feng slowly landed on the high platform. Looking at the board in Bai Long's hand that read, Fishing for Fame, the group of Confucian scholars immediately frowned. At this moment, the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators who had been invited held their breaths as they watched the people on the high platform. Who are you? Why didn't Yan Chuan come over? Chen Ping shouted. Yi Feng smiled. My king wants to defeat Sima Yuntian, how can he waste time on people like you? Yi Feng said indifferently. What? Chen Ping's eyes widened. I mean, you don't have the qualifications for my king to attend your literary gathering. Yi Feng shook his head. At this moment, it was not that Yi Feng did not know how to be humble, but that he could not be humble. At this moment, he was representing Yan Chuan and the country that was about to rise. How could a country lower its head? Yan Chuan is afraid. Ha! Chen Ping laughed disdainfully. Shaking his head, Yi Feng said, My king disdains to make a move, but I am enough. You? Ha ha ha! Chen Ping laughed. A large number of Confucian cultivators laughed. Yi Feng's cultivation was only in the essence realm. How could he fight against a group of Confucians alone? Everyone, why are you laughing? Yi Feng was not angry and said indifferently. At your age. Chen Ping was about to scold him. However, he could not continue. It seemed that Yan Chuan was younger. Yi Feng smiled and said, I am Yi Feng. This time, I am here to deliver a board for my king. I hope that everyone will not refuse. As he spoke, Bai Long handed over the Fishing for Fame board again. Chapter 485. Atlas Studios Tiger Race Encampment. The previous Tiger King, Zuo Wuzhou, looked coldly at Qing Long. Just give it to me. Zuo Wuzhou said coldly. Qing Long shook his head and said, I'm sorry. Young master has instructed that I can only give it to Bai Ditian. N? Zuo Wuzhou's eyes turned cold. The surrounding tigers roared and looked at Qing Long. Let him in. Bai Ditian's voice sounded from the hall. Yes. Zuo Wuzhou said respectfully. Zuo Wuzhou looked at Qing Long indignantly and made way for him. Qing Long was quickly led into the hall. Bai Ditian held a glass cup. In the cup was bright red wine that emitted a mellow fragrance. Yan Chuan sent you? Bai Ditian asked plainly. Qing Long nodded and took out a jade pendant. Young master asked me to bring this to you. Qing Long nodded. Ha, a piece of emerald stone. One inferior grade spirit stone. I can buy a lot of it. Zuo Wuzhou laughed coldly. Shut up. Bai Ditian's eyes narrowed. Yes. Zuo Wuzhou looked at Bai Ditian in shock. Bai Ditian waved his hand. Whoosh. The jade pendant landed in Bai Ditian's hand. Zuo Wuzhou was confused. Bai Ditian had always been indifferent. Why did he care so much about this jade pendant? Bai Ditian touched the jade pendant gently. A look of longing, doubt, and surprise flashed across his eyes. He reached out and took out a jade pendant. Seeing this jade pendant, Zuo Wuzhou guessed what it was and didn't dare to interrupt. The two jade pendants were made of similar materials. Bai Ditian placed the two jade pendants together. Whoosh! It was a perfect fit. They were pieced together. Bai Ditian's eyes darkened. Then, he looked coldly at Qing Long. This is a replica? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. Yes, young master just carved it. Qing Long nodded. Just carved it? How did Yan Chuan know about this jade pendant? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. I don't know, but young master asked me to pass a message to you. Qing Long took a deep breath and said. Speak. I, Yan Chuan, will be waiting for you at the East Hall of Julu City. Qing Long repeated without missing a word. Julu City, Dongfang Hall. Bai Ditian's expression changed. Senior, I've delivered the item. I'm going back now. Goodbye. Qing Long said directly. With that, Qing Long stepped out of the hall. Zuo Wuzhou opened his mouth to speak, but swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. Bai Ditian was completely immersed in the two jade pendants. As he looked at the jade pendants, his eyes flashed with sadness. Ha ha, that's great. We escaped from those bad guys again. Di Tian, with this jade pendant as proof, we will never leave each other. Is that okay? No, I don't want that treasure. Immortal weapons, divine weapons, they can't compare to my jade pendant. Di Tian, I don't know. Boo-hoo, how did you find out now? How did I get pregnant? What should I do? Di Tian, no. Without you, what's the point of me becoming an immortal? Scenes from his previous life flashed past his mind. Looking at the jade pendant, Bai Ditian was a little dazed. His eyes even started to tear up. Zuo Wuzhou was curious and wanted to ask, but seeing this scene, he swallowed his words. He turned around and quietly left the hall. Qing Long left the tiger tribe's camp. He flew quickly towards Julu City. Chapter 486. Meanwhile, in a forest far away from the tiger tribe's encampment, Wang Spider, who had been playing the guqin with Meng Rongrong not long ago, frowned as he watched with 10 demons. Why is he looking for Bai Ditian? Wang Spider frowned. Lord Wang, what should we do now? A demon asked with a frown. We have to complete the mission given to us by the Lord. We have to subdue all the tigers. Bai Ditian? Wang Spider frowned. Lord, what are we going to do? If we can't do it by force, we'll capture Bai Ditian and subdue the tigers. Wang Spider said in a low voice. Shall we do it now? A demon asked curiously. Wang Spider shook his head. Let's wait a little longer. This is the tiger tribe's encampment after all. If Bai Ditian escapes, all our efforts will be for naught. Let's wait a little longer. Yes. Julu City, Yong Hall. Yi Feng was facing off against the 60 great scholars alone. Although Yi Feng's cultivation was very weak, so weak that any of the great scholars could kill Yi Feng in an instant, Yi Feng was not afraid at all. He was even aggressive. Yi Feng smiled and said, I'm Yi Feng. This time, I'm here to deliver a plaque for you. I hope that everyone will not decline. As he spoke, White Dragon once again presented the signboard with the words, Fishing for Fame. 3 plaques. Wow! Below, nearly 10,000 great scholars were in an uproar. Yi Feng was the same as Yan Chuan. He was too arrogant. Of course, it was one thing to be arrogant, but it was another thing to show one's position in this matter. 3 gifts. The third time. Every time he gave a plaque, the great scholar's image would be greatly damaged. Lu Zilu still dared to give the plaque back twice. If this was given to Yi Feng, then the reputation of the 60 great scholars would be completely ruined. Oh! Chen Ping and the others stared. All the great scholars stared. Lu Zilu, who was in the lead, smiled faintly and stopped the great scholars. 3 plaques? Hoo, this plaque, we can't afford to receive it. Better let Yan Chuan keep it. Lu Zilu said coolly. Ha ha ha, can't accept it. You will be able to accept it. The main purpose of my visit today is to deliver the plaque to all of you. Yifeng said with a smile. Yifeng spoke politely, but his meaning was obvious. Today, he was here to deliver the plaque. Today, he was here to slap their faces. The faces of all the Confucians darkened. Yifeng did not linger on this topic. He asked Bai Long to put the plaque aside and turned to look at the two words that showed the sea and the desert. Good writing, but it's a pity. Yifeng said faintly. Pity what? Great scholar Chen Ping shouted coldly. It's a pity that I've seen too much, and my standards have also improved. Don't you all still have 3 pieces of calligraphy? Let's take them out together and let everyone observe. Yifeng said with a smile. Too much. His standards had also improved. What a joke. How many have you seen? Great scholar Chen Ping said angrily. You don't believe me? Ha, my king just wrote some miscellaneous pieces for me. If you're interested, you can take a look. Yifeng said with a smile. Miscellaneous pieces? Only miscellaneous pieces? All the Confucians were immediately angered by Yifeng's arrogance. Did he want to use miscellaneous pieces to compete with my splendid work? Some of the Confucians even laughed out of anger. Yifeng was not in a hurry. He picked one from the pile of scrolls held by Bai Long. Everyone, there are limited steals. I wonder if anyone can help me prepare more steals so that we can share my king's book. Yifeng looked at the Confucians with a smile. Bai Long was about to say that he could make some steals, but he was stopped by Yifeng with a look. What Yifeng wanted was the participation of nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators. This way, they would have a sense of immersion. Although it was only a little, it was enough. Next, no matter what he said to the 60 great Confucian cultivators, the scales in their hearts would unconsciously tilt towards him. If he was defeated, they would be united against a common enemy. If he won, they would be even more excited. I'll do it, I'll do it. Suddenly, 7 or 8 Confucian cultivators stood up, grabbed a large stone in the distance, and used magic to chop it. In the blink of an eye, 10 steels were formed. Ha, thank you very much. Yifeng said politely. I'll have to trouble you to make a few more steels later. I have a lot of scrolls here. Yifeng said with a smile. If the calligraphy is good, we will definitely help. The Confucian cultivators immediately agreed. Yifeng nodded. He took out a scroll and gently hung it in front of the thousands of Confucians. He unfolded it. Boom! The moment the scroll was unfolded, it seemed that a loud noise rushed out of the scroll, shocking the thousands of Confucians. The expressions of the 60 great scholars changed, and a bad feeling suddenly lingered in their hearts. Rumble. The scroll was unfolded, and a rumble sounded in all directions. A giant red mist rushed out of the scroll, and the shadow in the red mist was a huge volcano. The volcano erupted and rushed into the sky, and a vast rain of fire fell from the sky. The spectacular fiery red sky and earth immediately affected everyone's hearts. So magnificent! Someone could not help but say. Before they even looked at the words, the aura that was released made countless Confucian cultivators boil. This piece of splendid writing was much more spectacular than the sea and desert on the opposite side. Those two scenes were quiet, and the sea only moved slightly. However, this volcano was a scene of a big explosion. The observation of earthly fire soaring to the heavens immediately infected all the Confucian cultivators, and countless people were boiling. The talent of the top scholar. How could it be mediocre? The words of the top scholar were surging. The thousands of Confucians worshipped it, but the 60 great scholars' faces froze at that moment. That was because that piece of calligraphy had surpassed 2 of their own. Impossible! Chen Ping murmured in disbelief. However, Yifeng turned to the great scholars and said, Yifeng, never lie. Everyone, I still have 99 pieces here for everyone to admire. Don't you still have 3 pieces? Take them all out. There are still 99 pieces. That's impossible. How can splendid writing be so easy to write? Chen Ping immediately exclaimed. Can Yan Chuan write so many in such a short time? Another great scholar shouted. That's impossible. This is definitely Yan Chuan's limit. I don't believe that there's such a marvelous writing in that pile of paintings of yours. Wang Long shouted in a low voice. Spread the word for all Confucian cultivators to admire. Lu Zilu shouted. Yes. The 3 great scholars answered. The 2 sides opposed each other, and splendid writing flew out. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators immediately clenched their fists in excitement. Naturally, Yi Feng would not let the great scholars focus on the beauty. Instead, he looked at the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators and interacted with them again. Everyone! Yi Feng shouted. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators immediately looked at Yi Feng. My cultivation is weak, and I still have 99 pieces that my king gave me. I need your help to hang them up. Is there anyone willing? Yi Feng said with a smile. I'll do it, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll help you. On the other side, Lu Zilu's face was ugly. He still had 3 pieces of splendid writing that had not been hung up yet. It seemed that he had lost another round. Thank you. Yi Feng nodded. Chapter 487. A large number of Confucian cultivators came forward, wanting to hang up books for Yi Feng. Yi Feng did not stand on ceremony and allowed the group of Confucian cultivators to divide the scroll that Yan Chuan had just drawn. Rumble. The mountain rocks were constantly being split apart. Stone tablets were erected one after another, and scrolls were slowly hung on them. Boom! In the direction of the great Confucian scholar, another beautiful article appeared. A vast expanse of snowy plains. It was vast and magnificent. An icy cold aura gushed out. Spotless, purifying one's heart and lungs. Before Chen Ping and the others could rejoice, another scroll unfurled. Rumble. It was like the sound of 10,000 horses galloping, and the same cold air pressed down. The painting unfurled, and a white mist rose up into the sky. There was also an endless amount of snow, but Yi Feng was facing a huge avalanche. Heavy snow rolled over. The vast aura was many times stronger than that of the other side. All right. Spectacular. The realm of avalanche is like 10,000 horses galloping. A series of praises rang out. Just by looking at it, the aura of the avalanche had already suppressed the snowy plains. Impossible, how could there be another one? This must be from before, Chen Ping exclaimed. No, look at avalanche and volcano. The ink on these 2 chapters hasn't even dried yet. Wang Long smiled bitterly. The ink is still wet. Immediately, many people cast surprised looks at him. It's true. The ink hasn't completely dried yet. It really was written just now. A Confucian cultivator cried out in alarm. Did Yan Chuan enter the Eastern Palace Hall for a while? He wrote 2 splendid essays in a row. 2. Moreover, they are 2 extremely conflicting landscapes. There were close to 10,000 Confucian cultivators. Although their literary skills could not compare to the great Confucians, they had been in Jiulu City for many years. With just 2 scrolls, Yan Chuan's name would resound throughout Jiulu City. Impossible. Do it again. Chen Ping shouted angrily. The 60 great scholars unfurled another scroll. It was a vast grassland. As for Yi Feng, the 3rd scroll was unfurled. It was a raging inferno that stretched to the heavens. The 3rd chapter. It's already the 3rd chapter. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators were in an uproar. Although the other side's article was also good, it seemed to be much worse than Yan Chuan's. Yan Chuan's articles were all different. Different styles. Yifeng stood at the side and smiled. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators rose to their feet and looked at the beautiful scrolls with anticipation and reverence in their eyes. Volume 4, The Stormy Sea. The fifth volume, Myriad Stars Fall. When the 10th scroll was opened, there was not a trace of noise in the surroundings, only silence. Almost 10,000 Confucian cultivators, there were no words of praise left. Splendid Miaoan. Some people had never seen such things in their entire lives, but at this moment, they were popping up one after another like cabbages. At this moment, everyone was no longer looking at the distant Eastern Palace Hall with disdain. Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan indeed had the ability to establish another academy. Look at these articles. 10 articles with 10 different styles. Chapter 11. Chapter 12. The scrolls were unfurled one by one. The 60 great scholars' expressions became more and more unpleasant. How is this possible? Chen Ping exclaimed. Don't tell me these scrolls are all about splendid Miaoan. A great Confucian asked in horror. Impossible, someone else must have written them. Chen Ping shook his head in disbelief. Splendid Miaoan? No, once splendid Miaoan appears, it will spread throughout the 4 great academies. However, I have never seen these articles before. Wang Long shook his head. Chapter 488. So many. Lu Zilu's expression was ugly. The 5 pieces of splendid prose that he had brought with him could have shaken the entire place and defeated everything. However, the scene in front of him made Lu Zilu feel like he was going to collapse. How could this happen? Lu Zilu clenched his fists and his face turned green. Dongfang Zhenpai, who was standing outside the East Hall to protect Yan Chuan, also had an interesting expression. Fuck, is this for real? Dongfang Zhenpai's eyeballs were about to pop out. If not for the fact that he was protecting Yan Chuan, he would have run over. Swish! A figure landed in front of Dongfang Zhenpai. Qinglong. You are back. Dongfang Zhenpai was delighted. Yes, what's wrong? Where is young master? Bai Long and the rest are here too. Qinglong was shocked. Yan Chuan is in seclusion in the East Hall. You stay here and guard him. Dongfang Zhenpai instructed. After finishing his sentence, Dongfang Zhenpai flew to the opposite side. Azure Dragon was left gaping in shock, but he still solemnly accepted the mission. Not far from the East Hall, Meng Rongrong knew that the 60 great scholars had invited 10,000 scholars to participate in the literary summit and finally came to investigate. She stood in a remote corner and looked at the splendid prose in the East Hall. Behind her stood Changqing and a few other Confucian cultivators. This is too exaggerated. This was written by Yan Chuan. A Confucian cultivator exclaimed. It is the 30th piece. Another great scholar said in disbelief. Young mistress, it seems like we really misunderstood Yan Chuan back then. With his literary talent, there is no need for him to be a student here. Changqing smiled bitterly. Yes, this is Yan Chuan's calligraphy, chess, prose. This. The Confucian cultivator at the side was speechless. Meng Rongrong looked at the tightly shut doors of the Eastern Palace Hall in the distance with a complicated look in her eyes. Humph. Meng Rongrong snorted. Although he still couldn't forgive Yan Chuan, the grievances he felt in the past had suddenly lessened a lot. I'll go back first. You guys take your time. Meng Rongrong shook her head. Ah. Eldest miss, you're not watching anymore. Changqing said in surprise. Just watch. Meng Rongrong flew off into the distance. Meng Rongrong left, but the group of Confucian cultivators were reluctant to leave. Let's go up and take a look. A Confucian cultivator said. All right. Changqing and the others nodded. At this moment, it was not just Changqing and the others. Countless cultivators from all over Julu city were attracted by the spectacular scene. From afar, one could see volcanoes, snowy plains, shooting stars, and countless other wondrous sceneries above the Yong Hall. It would be strange if they did not attract the attention of the crowd. Julu Mountain, plaza outside Julu Hall. Hall Master Meng Ziqiu and Left Hall Master Yu Yi also looked at the scene in confusion. Yu Yi, what do you think? Meng Ziqiu asked with a strange expression. I don't know, but I know that Sima Yuntian must have met his match. Yu Yi said with a strange expression. There's more to fighting for the God investiture strategy. However, this Yan Chuan is indeed an interesting person. Meng Ziqiu said with a smile. Good writing, really good writing. Yu Yi praised as he looked at the writing in the distance. Outside the Yong Hall. It was quiet, but everyone knew that today, Yan Chuan had completely shaken Julu city. That was 60 splendid essays. And it was still going on. For a moment, the surroundings of the Yong Hall were incomparably beautiful. In front of Yan Chuan's vast amount of wonderful writings, the 5 splendid writings of the 60 great scholars were completely overshadowed. Yi Feng smiled as he looked at the essays. Chapter 489. On the other side, the 60 great scholars all had dark expressions. I don't believe it, I don't believe it. There must be plagiarism, there must be. Chen Ping kept reading Yan Chuan's splendid prose, hoping to find a plagiarized one. But how could he find one? 70. 80. 90. All of these were the first interviews. Almost all of the scholars stood on Yi Feng's side. The 60 great scholars holding another summit was simply making a wedding dress for someone else. Senior brother, let's go. Today, we have completely lost. Wang Long revealed a hint of bitterness. You want to leave? Take the plaque given by my king and don't send it back. Yi Feng immediately laughed. The white dragon immediately stuffed the signboard of Fishing for Fame into the hands of a great scholar. Looking at the white robe in his hand, the great scholar's expression became extremely ugly. Boom! The 100th splendid prose was hung up. 100 scrolls of splendid prose seemed to be pieced together to form a magnificent mountain and river. Whoosh! The Confucian cultivators' eyes were full of fanaticism. Some of them were a bit breathless from looking at these splendid prose. All of them looked towards the Eastern Hall with more than just admiration. It was as if a literature grandmaster was sitting there. Virtuous paragon. Yan Chuan was a virtuous paragon. In a short period of time, 100 splendid prose. If this was not a virtuous paragon, then who was? Virtuous paragon, Yan Chuan, the role model of our generation. Yan Chuan is a true virtuous paragon. These 100 splendid prose can shake the world. The Confucian cultivators were not stingy with their words of praise. The great scholars had received too many blows, and many of them wanted to leave. However, Lu Zilu calmed down and didn't leave. Instead, he looked at Yi Feng. If he really left this time, then it would be a complete admission of defeat. The 72 great scholars' reputation would be completely ruined. Even Sima Yuntian would be seen as someone fishing for fame. Leave? He couldn't leave. Poetry is only one path. Yi Feng. Do you dare to compete with us in splendid prose? Lu Zilu shouted. When Lu Zilu shouted, many of those who worshipped Yan Chuan looked at him with disdain. Lu Zilu's words were too unbecoming of a great Confucian scholar. He had lost to such an extent. Still not letting go. Fight Zhuan again. Do you want to get back at me through other means? Lu Zilu didn't want to say it, but he had no choice but to say it now. If he didn't say it now, he wouldn't have a chance to fight back. The group of Confucian scholars looked at Lu Zilu in surprise, but they soon understood what Lu Zilu meant. Yo, you're really giving Sima Yuntian face. Dongfang Zhenpai laughed. What did you say? Eastern Orthodox sect, what is the meaning of this? The group of Confucian scholars scolded. Dongfang Zhenpai shrugged his shoulders and said no more. However, the meaning behind his words couldn't be more obvious. With nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators, who wouldn't understand? He was scolding them for being shameless. More and more Confucian cultivators revealed looks of disdain. Everyone, how do you want to fight? Yifeng smiled. Yifeng came here to buy time for Yan Chuan so that the group of Confucian scholars wouldn't quarrel every other day. Go! Lu Zilu said solemnly. Yifeng suddenly revealed a strange smile and said, my king guessed right. You really want to fight? Zither, Go, calligraphy, and painting were all defeated in poetry. They definitely didn't dare to fight in calligraphy. Painting and calligraphy had many similarities, so the Confucian scholars definitely didn't dare to fight in calligraphy. As for the zither, it was the most difficult to cultivate. If the Confucian scholars could use their full strength, it would be best for them to fight in chess. What's wrong? Are you afraid? Chen Ping shouted. I'm not afraid. I just feel that you're quite sad. Yifeng said indifferently. Quite sad. The group of Confucian scholars was immediately choked by Yifeng's words. Come, I'll fight you too. Let's see how capable you so-called great Confucian scholars are. Yifeng said indifferently. You? Chen Ping showed a hint of disdain. No matter what, he was only helping Yan Chuan to win. It wasn't Yifeng's own ability. What? You don't believe me again? Yifeng said with a smile. The word again was like a slap to Chen Ping's face. Again? Why did he say again? Chapter 490. Yifeng defeats all the Confucians. Julu City, in the Yong Hall. Yifeng swung his robe and slowly sat down. He looked at great scholar Chen Ping. There was a chessboard between the two of them. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators watched quietly. Do you think Immortal knows how to play chess? I'll show you what chess is. Chen Ping sat down slowly. Yifeng smiled and said, chess. It's not about words. Beat me first. Yifeng was extremely confident. He had only lost one game in chess when he met Yan Chuan, but he had never lost before. This was Yifeng's specialty. Even in the cultivation world, Yifeng was still proud of it. Do you want me to give you a handicap? Chen Ping asked. Yifeng looked at Chen Ping and finally said with a smile, with just this sentence, I know that I overestimated you. You? Chen Ping glared. Clap. Yifeng placed a black piece. Chen Ping suppressed the anger in his heart and began to place his piece as well. Clap. Clap. After Chen Ping placed his piece, Yifeng placed another piece. It was very fast. Chen Ping frowned slightly and placed another piece. Pa. Yifeng seemed to not even think as he placed another piece. Yifeng placed his piece. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators looked at him curiously. Can this Yifeng person really do it? Yeah, I want to see Yan Chuan play chess. He's only in the essence state. He must have been immortal not long ago. What can Immortal do? Disdain came from all around. No, I know Yifeng's chess skills. A voice suddenly sounded. Oh. Many Confucian cultivators turned their heads. Brother Changqing. Brother Changqing, you know Yifeng? Immediately, Changqing was recognized. Yes, and I've seen him play chess with Yan Chuan. Their chess skills are definitely at the level of great Confucians. Many of the great Confucians in Julu City can't even compare to them. Changqing shook his head. Ah. Is that true? He played chess with Yan Chuan. Then who won? The first game was won by Yan Chuan. The second, so Yan Chuan is Yan Chuan. Can Yifeng win? We'll definitely win, I'm sure of it. Changqing said seriously. Ha ha ha, how can you? If you don't believe me, how about we make a bet? Do with the painting you art you, is it Chuan heir, it's a deal. Although there were many doubtful voices, Yan Chuan's 100 essays had already won the hearts of the Confucian cultivators. Now, they didn't reject Yifeng as much. Smack. 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 Yifeng's chess pieces were very fast. Each piece was faster than the last. Scholar Chen Ping was fine at the beginning, but after 20 pieces, Scholar Chen Ping's face turned ugly. Is this a game of chess? Is he crazy? He doesn't even want to think about it, someone scolded. Yifeng, however, remained motionless, and continued to place his pieces. Gradually, each of them placed down 50 pieces. The entire chessboard had entered a mysterious state. Chen Ping's disdain gradually turned serious, and he even looked at the chessboard with some panic. As Yifeng placed more and more pieces, Chen Ping found that his pieces were being pushed back. Clack! Yifeng placed another piece. Just as Chen Ping was about to place his piece, Yifeng said indifferently, "You lost." Ah! Chen Ping grabbed a white piece and looked at Yifeng in shock. Chapter 491. What? What did you just say? Chen Ping's expression turned extremely ugly. I said, you've lost. Save some face for yourself. Yifeng said indifferently. Bastard, we're only halfway through the game. How can you say that I've lost? Chen Ping glared at him. Countless Confucian cultivators in the surroundings also looked curious. Had Yifeng lost his mind? They were only halfway through the game, and Chen Ping's situation on the board was very good. Had he lost? How had he lost? The Confucian scholars behind Chen Ping frowned at this moment. A few of them had complicated expressions. Chen Ping, you've lost. Lu Zilu sighed faintly. Huh? Exclamations of surprise came from all around. If Yifeng had said that Chen Ping had lost, they would have thought that Yifeng was trying to please the crowd or that Yifeng had lost his mind. But now, even Lu Zilu said that Chen Ping had lost. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. How can an ordinary person defeat me? Chen Ping immediately said hatefully. He quickly placed another piece. Yifeng smiled slightly and said, I've saved your face, but you don't want it. Forget it. Watch me slay the dragon. Smack. 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 As the pieces fell, Yifeng's expression remained indifferent, but Chen Ping's face grew darker and darker. He looked like he was about to die. After 10 pieces, Yifeng placed a piece. He immediately plucked 10 white pieces from Chen Ping. He placed another piece and plucked 15 white pieces from Chen Ping. Then, he placed another piece and plucked 8 white pieces from Chen Ping. Slay the dragon. That was more than slay the dragon. Chen Ping was utterly defeated. It was not 1 or 2 pieces, but 2 pieces. In just a short while, the entire board was dominated by black pieces. Chen Ping had been utterly defeated. When had he ever played such a humiliating game? In the end, he was almost completely wiped out. Completely wiped out. This was Go, not Chinese chess. How could one be completely wiped out in this game? Clack. Yifeng placed another piece. You're the one who lost your face. You can't blame anyone else. Yifeng shook his head and sighed. Grabbing a white Go stone, Chen Ping felt like he was going crazy. There was not a single place to place a Go stone on the entire Go board. He couldn't fall any further. Chen Ping continued to stare at the chessboard for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Pooh! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Chen Ping fainted. Junior brother. Junior martial brother. The group of Confucian scholars stepped forward. You call yourself a great scholar with this kind of mentality? No wonder His Majesty gave you a plaque. Yi Feng said mercilessly. Give a plaque. Fishing for fame. You. The group of Confucian scholars immediately shouted angrily. Hua. The Confucian cultivators who had previously been immersed in the chessboard suddenly came to their senses. Amazing, this chess game is too terrifying. Yeah, all the white pieces. It's raining. Are you kidding me? If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have dared to believe that he could wipe out the other party in Go. Gasps of admiration rang out from all around. Everyone was cheering for the stunning game of Go. Ha, I won. Remember, that painting is mine. Changqing said with a smile to a Confucian cultivator who had made a bet with him. Changqing, who is this Yi Feng? Also, Yi Feng's Go skills are so exaggerated. What about Yan Chuan's Go skills? Immediately, there was a commotion in the surroundings. Yi Feng, on the other hand, looked at the other Confucian scholars. Is there anyone else who would like to challenge me? Yi Feng said with a smile. I'll do it. Another Confucian said with a cold face. Outside the Yong Hall, after the Wen clan had shaken the entire city, the Go game had become the new focus. Yi Feng had single-handedly defeated 60 great Confucian scholars. What a huge gimmick. For a moment, all the Confucian cultivators who liked to play Go in Julu City came over. Chapter 492. A few days later. Mount Julu, outside Julu Palace. Meng Ziqiu, Meng Rongrong, and Yu Yi stood in the square, looking in the direction of Yong Palace. This Yi Feng is incredible. There are already 15 great scholars, and they are all defeated. Yu Yi exclaimed. His chess skills are indeed superb. Moreover, his moves are aggressive. Meng Ziqiu said. Aggressive? His moves are not aggressive. Yan Chuan's moves are aggressive. Meng Rongrong shook her head and said with a complicated expression. Oh. Here, this is the first game they played. Meng Rongrong took out a chess record. Meng Ziqiu and Yu Yi immediately read it. Good move. Very impressive. Yu Yi praised. Yes, few of the great scholars of the Julu Academy can surpass his skill. Meng Ziqiu nodded. Yan Chuan's moves are very aggressive. The first piece, Tianyuan. The last piece, Jiu Wu. Yu Yi's expression changed. Tianyuan. Jiu Wu. Meng Ziqiu frowned and pondered. Back then, Yi Feng was playing blind chess. Yan Chuan was running errands everywhere. He was running errands while playing chess. Meng Rongrong said. What? The two of them were shocked. Looking at the game, the two of them were speechless for a long time. Yu Yi, what do you think? Meng Ziqiu asked with a bitter smile. In the past, we underestimated the people of the world. Yu Yi said bitterly. Immortal? How could the two of them have imagined that Immortal could play such exquisite chess? In Yong Palace, Feng dominated the game. He played aggressively, and the great scholars were defeated one by one. At this moment, no one looked down on Yi Feng. His chess skills alone had won everyone's respect. At this moment, Yi Feng became the new focus. Not far away, in Dongfang Palace, the surroundings of the Eastern Palace were suddenly filled with fog, enveloping the entire floating island of the Eastern Palace. Although some people found out, no one went to disturb Yan Chuan. At the entrance of the East Hall, Qing Long was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, guarding the entrance. Suddenly, his eyes opened and he shouted, "Who is it?" Qing Long immediately stood up, his face full of vigilance. Who? A white figure suddenly appeared. Bai Ditian? Qing Long's eyes widened. Bai Ditian's arrival was too strange. Qing Long only noticed him when he was right in front of them. Qing Long immediately felt like he was facing a great enemy. Qing Long, you don't have to worry about what's happening here. Go to the Yong Hall and follow Bai Long to protect Yifeng. Yan Chuan's voice came from the East Hall. Ah! Qing Long was surprised. Go! Yan Chuan said from within the palace. Yes. Azure Dragon nodded with a hint of surprise. Stepping forward, Qing Long flew out of the foggy area and headed straight for Yifeng. Qing Long left. Rumble. The door to the palace slowly opened. A kitten was pushing the door with its buttocks. Aya, aya, aya. Meow struggled to push the door. Bai Ditian frowned in surprise as he looked at Meow, who was pushing the door with all her might. Meow. The door finally opened. Come in. Remember to close the door. Meow called out to Bai Ditian. As she spoke, she skipped back into the palace. Bai Ditian's expression changed slightly. Finally, he stepped in. Clang. The moment Bai Ditian entered the East Hall, he waved his sleeves, and the door to the palace slammed shut. When Bai Ditian entered the East Hall, at the peak of a mountain not far away, King Spider brought 10 great demons over as well. Spider King frowned when he saw the commotion in the Yong Hall. My lord, should we take action? A great demon asked. This is a heaven-sent opportunity. Bai Ditian actually came to the East Hall. That's good too. The fog outside the East Hall is just right for us to set up an array to capture Bai Ditian. Spider King said. Set up an array. That's right. We can't make any mistakes when setting up an array. Let's go. Spider King said. Yes. The great demons nodded. Chapter 493. Atlas Studios Jilu City, Dongfang Hall. Bai Ditian entered the hall, and the door slammed shut. Yan Chuan had renovated the Dongfang Hall, making it extremely spacious. Everything was stored in Meow's felt hat. Only a table, a chair, and some luminous pearls were left. Yan Chuan sat in the south, facing north, waiting for Bai Ditian. Please. Yan Chuan smiled. Bai Ditian looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression and slowly sat down. Meow jumped to the side and hugged a spirit stone. As she chewed on it, she looked at the two of them curiously. There was a teapot on the table. Yan Chuan poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to Bai Ditian. You know my background? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. Without asking about his wife, Bai Ditian looked coldly at Yan Chuan. Reincarnated and recultivated? Paragon of the tiger race? Yan Chuan smiled. Since you know my identity, you still dare to be alone with me? This white tiger's bloodline is of a higher grade than mine. Aren't you afraid that I will refine it? Bai Ditian looked at Meow indifferently. Meow. Meow roared at Bai Ditian angrily. Yan Chuan smiled and said, I have studied your history. You have been proud all your life. You would not do such a thing. Furthermore, with me around, you will not be able to touch Meow. Is that so? You? Bai Ditian asked curiously. Yan Chuan smiled faintly as his eyes suddenly widened. A domineering emperor's intent surged out. Roar! Suddenly, a golden dragon emerged from Yan Chuan's eyes. It had 2 horns, and its eyes were filled with anger as it roared towards the heavens. As it roared, it tore through the air. The dragon's roar was loud as it pounced towards Bai Ditian. Seeing this huge golden dragon, Bai Ditian's expression changed. Bai Ditian did not want to be outdone. He glared. Bai Ditian's intent surged out. Roar! A huge white tiger roared and charged out from Bai Ditian's eyes. The tiger's head was extremely domineering. As it opened its mouth, it looked as if it wanted to swallow the world. The ferocious tiger charged towards the golden dragon. Boom! The dragon and tiger came into contact with each other. Yan Chuan's emperor's intent and Bai Ditian's white Ditian's intent. Under the collision, the entire hall was instantly filled with endless golden and white light. Pa! Pa! A large number of night luminescent pearls exploded under the impact of this light. Roar! Roar! Dragon and tiger contending for supremacy. Just the aftershocks of their wills were enough to shake the void. The two domineering wills clashed, trying to kill each other. A dragon and a tiger were tearing at each other with a power that could split the sky. They were evenly matched. Bang! Bang is bang bang bang. Studios Ditian NNN Buddha Lion Studios NN Studios Bang. The force of the collision between the dragon and tiger grew stronger and stronger. As they tore at each other, a powerful aura spread out in all directions of the main hall. Perhaps the two experts were controlling it well, but the impact of their wills did not leak out of the eastern hall. Boom! 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 It was like mountains colliding again and again. As the dragon and tiger collided, Yan Chuan and Bai Ditian stared at each other. Their eyes were filled with malevolence. Bai Ditian did not expect Yan Chuan's intent to be so domineering. It was so domineering that he could not do anything about it. Yan Chuan was the same. However, Yan Chuan was more excited. The stronger Bai Ditian was, the better. At the same time, Yan Chuan kept urging his intent to make the golden dragon stronger and roar more loudly. The dragon and tiger fight. No one could do anything to the other. But no one was willing to stop. Chapter 494. Just like that, the dragon and tiger tore each other apart. 6 hours later, rumble. The Providence in Julu City suddenly started to churn. Roar! Roar! The 5 golden dragons above Julu City suddenly roared as if they had sensed Yan Chuan's golden dragon. The roars caused the Providence clouds to churn. The commoners in the city did not think much of it, but Meng Ziqiu's eyes suddenly widened. Headmaster, what's going on? Yue rushed into the main hall. Dragon's aura. Dragon's aura has appeared in Julu City. Furthermore, it has provoked the golden dragon of Julu City. Meng Ziqiu said with an ugly expression. Dragon's aura? How is that possible? Yue said in shock. Inform all the scholars to search for the dragon's aura. Find out which dragon realm martial artist is here. Meng Ziqiu said with an ugly expression. Dragon realm martial artist? Yue frowned. To be able to provoke the golden dragon of Julu City, it is naturally not a small matter. This dragon realm martial artist should be an upper void realm martial artist. Go quickly. There might be a misunderstanding. Meng Ziqiu said in a low voice. All right. Yue quickly rushed out of the main hall. Meng Ziqiu also walked out of the main hall and looked up at the churning Providence in the sky. Who is it? The 8th Division Heavenly Dragon of the West? It can't be him. But who could it be? Meng Ziqiu shook his head. Roar! Roar! Outside the East Hall, a dragon's roar suddenly sounded. Yan Chuan and Bai Ditian's eyes narrowed. Boom! After the dragon and tiger collided for the last time, they immediately split apart. The East Hall seemed to have been divided in an instant. Half of it was a dragon, and the other half was a tiger. The dragon and tiger did not give in to either. Whoosh! Suddenly, the dragon and tiger disappeared. The main hall instantly turned pitch black. Meow! Meow quickly poured out a large number of night luminescent pearls, and the main hall lit up again. True dragon's intent? Bai Ditian looked at Yan Chuan in shock. White tigers in tent. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. The will of a voider. Are you also a reincarnated person? Bai Ditian's face darkened as he asked. Yan Chuan smiled, tacitly agreeing. Yan Chuan was born from usurping life, it was not as simple as reincarnating. However, at this moment, Yan Chuan tacitly agreed to reincarnate. Meow. Yan Chuan, really? Meow was also surprised. Yan Chuan looked at Bai Ditian and said indifferently, I know that you are not the type to gossip. So, you know that I don't mind. Yan Chuan should have kept this a secret. However, after what had just happened, Yan Chuan felt that he had to obtain Bai Ditian. This person must be tied together. Meow, Yan Chuan, are you really a reincarnated person? Meow was suddenly very interested. Yan Chuan glanced at Meow and said, according to my speculation, you are also a reincarnated tiger. We all are. Meow. Meow's excitement suddenly disappeared. Me too. Meow pointed at herself with her little paw, confused. What was going on? She was just about to talk about Yan Chuan. Why did she get dragged into this? Think about it yourself. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Meow stretched out her two front paws and looked at them carefully. I'm also a reincarnated person. Why didn't I know? Ignoring Meow, Yan Chuan looked at Bai Ditian. Did you receive that jade pendant? Yan Chuan asked with a smile. At this moment, Bai Ditian no longer looked at Yan Chuan with the same arrogance as before. Although he did not look arrogant on the surface, there was definitely a sense of pride in his heart. It was an arrogance that looked down on all living things. Although he said that he was equal to Yan Chuan, he was biased in his heart. Chapter 495. However, things were different now. Yan Chuan's emperor's will had proven that Yan Chuan had the qualifications to be on par with him. In fact, the clash of wills just now had not revealed anything about Yan Chuan. How powerful was the Golden Dragon's will? Yan Chuan's clash of wills, and he had even exposed his own secret, was largely to show that they were on par. Only when they were on par would the other party be able to accept many things. Jade pendant? Why do you have that jade pendant? Bai Ditian's face suddenly turned cold. That was Bai Ditian's wife's jade pendant. There was only one jade pendant in the world, and it had never been made public. How did Yan Chuan know about it? Bai Ditian's eyes flashed with worry as he thought about his wife in his previous life. In my previous life, I had a good friend called Bai Tu-Shi. Yan Chuan said solemnly. Bai Tu-Shi. Bai Ditian frowned slightly. This jade pendant belonged to him. It had been with him since he was born. It's the key to the mystery of his birth. Yan Chuan said solemnly. His? Since he was born. The mystery of his birth? Bai Ditian's face was filled with shock. At that moment, how could Bai Ditian not understand what Yan Chuan meant? It had been more than 8,000 years. It was time for his son to be born. After 8,000 years, he was called Bai Tu-Shi. Bai Tu-Shi. Bai Tu-Shi. Bai Ditian suddenly laughed happily. He had a son. He had a son. Bai Ditian was excited. After laughing for a while, Bai Ditian suddenly looked at Yan Chuan. You reincarnated from the celestial world? Celestial world? Perhaps. Anyway, I knew Bai Tu-Shi in my previous life. Yan Chuan said with a smile. What does he look like? Is he well now? Bai Ditian's eyes were filled with anticipation. Even Bai Ditian's voice was trembling. In the past, Bai Ditian had thought that nothing in the world could affect his emotions. Now, his heart was trembling uncontrollably. I'm not sure if he's well now. After all, I've been reborn. However, a few days ago, I drew a picture. It's by too sure. Yan Chuan said. As he spoke, Yan Chuan stretched out his hand. Meow. Meow quickly took out a scroll from her felt hat. Bai Ditian immediately took it. He was a little expectant, but he didn't dare to open it. After a while, he slowly unrolled the scroll. The scroll unfurled. In the painting, there was a huge black tiger. The black tiger was roaring and its ferocious aura was threatening. The aura of a tiger dominating the world was vividly displayed on the paper. However, on the right eye of this black tiger was a huge scar. Under the scar, the right eye was simply broken. The right eye was blind, and only the left eye remained. What's going on? Who did it? Who did it? Bai Ditian's eyes immediately turned vicious. Bai too sure. Bai Ditian was filled with guilt towards this son that he had never met before. It had been 8,000 years, but he had not been able to give him any fatherly care. He felt that he had let down this son of his. This was also the reason why he felt guilty and didn't dare to open the painting. But now, one of Bai too sure's eyes was blind in the painting. His precious son had been blinded by someone? Bai Ditian's eyes were filled with viciousness. Do you know about Bai too sure's childhood? Yan Chuan didn't answer his question. Bai Ditian looked at Yan Chuan. At this moment, Bai too sure's appearance had thrown Bai Ditian's mind into chaos. The series of plans that he had prepared to intimidate Yan Chuan were all messed up. After Bai too sure was born, he was abandoned in the forest. He said that he had never seen his parents. He only had a jade pendant and a small jade tablet with his name engraved on it. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the corpse of a wild wolf. He only managed to survive by drinking the wolf's blood. Yan Chuan said. How could this be? How could this be? Bai Ditian's heart was filled with pain. In the forest, a tiger cub was surrounded by danger. He only managed to survive by eating some rotting corpses. His life was miserable, and he struggled on the verge of death several times. It wasn't easy for him to grow up. He said that what he wanted to know the most was why his parents were so heartless to leave him alone. Yan Chuan sighed softly. Ka 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 ka. Bai Ditian clenched his fists, his heart filled with guilt. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.